Is he tired?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll see what happens. We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I am a dissident.
Don't move. Move.
I'm saying no while you hear Palantir, 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 Palantir. It's not going to stop.
Seriously, we need to release the F-scene list.
Turns off.
I am not a church boy.
Turns off.
They're full-on vampires.
They hate our beef. They hate our beef. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome, one and all, to a Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
Hello.
How is everybody doing? Sorry about that delayed start, everybody. Russell was having problems with his internet, and right as we were sorting those, my power went out here in New York. So all kinds of problems. Power just completely went out.
Yeah, that's God telling you not to do the show, man.
Yeah,
I told
exactly.
him. I was like, yeah, man, we do this show. It's going to be a curse to the seventh generation, but he wouldn't hear of it.
Yeah. Some kind of sign, for sure, without a doubt. So
I it's just unreal. Like, it's almost 3 months. Little glitch once. I can't. I think it was in Laos. We had a little problem, but pretty much the last literally 2 weeks of the that I'll actually be on the show, and now this comes up. I think it's a Cambodia thing. I don't think it's this hotel.
All right. Well, that could certainly be. Well, we thank you everybody very much for being here. Appreciate you all. Jake is in the booth with us tonight. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to everybody. Great crowd in here to start things off. I guess you get a great crowd in here to start things off when you run 20 minutes late. So we are at 11:46 in the YouTube chat, 5:28 over on Rumble. Appreciate you all being here. Let's get right into things because Russell's running on data. So we're going to knock out some of Russ's segments first in case disaster should strike again.
Yes, because on these data plans, they will tend to throttle you past a certain point. So we're hoping we get through this without being throttled. All right. So you might have breathed a sigh of relief if you haven't been paying any attention to how Donald Trump rolls when he started to indicate he wanted to wind down operations and dump it in the lap of everybody else. We are getting very close to meeting our objectives as we consider winding down our great military efforts in the Middle East with respect to the terrorist regime of Iran, completely degrading Iranian missile capability, launchers, and everything else pertaining to them. 2, destroying Iran's defense industrial base. 3, eliminating their Navy and Air Force, including anti-aircraft weaponry. 4, never allowing Iran to get even close to nuclear capability, and always being in a position where the USA can quickly and powerfully react to such a situation should it take place. 5, protecting at the highest level our Middle Eastern allies, including Israel, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Kuwait, and others. The Hormuz Strait will have to be guarded and policed as necessary by other nations who use it. The United States does not. If asked, we will help these countries in their Hormuz efforts, but it shouldn't be necessary once Iran's threat is eradicated. Importantly, It will be an easy military operation for them. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Okay, so I think part of the reason that a lot of people took it kind of seriously is, that sounds like the kind of really shitty, irresponsible asshole move that he would make. Yeah, problem solved. So you guys, that's you want oil, you're gonna have to do something about that Hormuz situation there. Bye. It sounded like something he would do, so it sounded kind
Our
of
work here is done. Screw you guys, I'm going home.
Screw you guys, I'm going home. But
it was not to be.
I think this was within 24 hours. If Iran doesn't fully open without threat the Strait of Hormuz within 48 hours from this exact point in time, the United States of America will hit and obliterate their various power plants, starting with the biggest one first. I don't know which one that is, but Pete does, me knows. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Wow, that's great. That's just great. Iran responded to this, as you would expect. Spokesman for the Qatam El Anbaya headquarters of the Iranian Armed Forces, quote, following previous warnings, should Iran's fuel and energy infrastructure be violated by the enemy, all energy, information technology, and desalination infrastructure belonging to the U.S. and the Israeli regime in the region will be targeted. So Trump was asked, and actually you can't really hear it here, but the setup here is the Pope is urging a ceasefire. That's what he was responding to.
Is calling for a ceasefire in the Middle East and to reopen dialogue. What do you say to the Pope?
Well, look, we can have dialogue, but I don't want to do a ceasefire. You don't do a ceasefire when you're literally obliterating the other side. They don't have a Navy. They don't have an Air Force. They don't have any equipment. They don't have any spotters. They don't have anti-aircraft. They don't have radar. And their leaders have all been killed at every level. We're not looking to do that. Thank you.
Well, you know what? For anyone who wants to see these two sides come together and agree on something, this might be reassuring. Because if there's one thing that they agree on, it's that they don't want a ceasefire. Here is Iran on a ceasefire.
Let me
take that back a little bit. When we say we don't want a ceasefire, it's not because we're seeking war. It's because this war must end in a way that ensures our enemies never again think of repeating these attacks and aggression. And I think they've already learned a valuable lesson. They've realized what kind of nation they're dealing with, one that won't hesitate to defend itself and is ready to take this fight as far as necessary. Yeah, well, hey, they agree on something, so it's a start. Here is drop site news. Earlier Saturday, Iran launched its 72nd wave of missile and drone attacks targeting U.S. and Israeli interests across the region. Footage released by Iranian authorities shows a missile bearing an image of an article titled U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee backs greater Israel expansion to whole Middle East. Text printed alongside the image reads, "O Arab youth, they intend to control you too, and we defend you as well. Arab youth, America is seeking to dominate your lands. We defend the lands of Islam." This is a very big X factor in this whole thing. How many people in the Arab world see Iran as heroically attacking governments that they hate and see as illegitimate and propped up by the West, principally America? So there's the image there of what they sent on the missile. And hey, these leaders are certainly exposing their hypocrisy everywhere, Middle East, East, West, the foreign minister, H.H. Prince, attacking neighbors violates pacts and contradicts Islamic teachings. This is put out by the Saudi Foreign Ministry, and Hassan Mafi commented, Saudis bomb Yemen for 8 years and then tell everyone attacking neighbors is against Islamic teachings. This is probably the greatest triumph, or one of the greatest triumphs that Iran has had so far. They're exposing everybody, which, according to a lot of analysts, this is part of their plan. This is part of their plan to make all of these leaders illegitimate in the eyes of their citizens. And hey, man, hey, it's not just Saudi leaders that are illegitimate. Never forget that these people are your mortal enemies. Never forget that these people that they tell you are these brilliant CEO entrepreneurs. These people belong in prison. They all belong in prison. They are psychopaths. You want proof that these people are psychopaths, that the benign CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, is a psychopath? Listen to what he says about this war.
In the Middle East, is that an area where we believe that we can expand artificial intelligence to? I believe that there's a reason we went to war, and I believe at the end of the war, Middle East will be more stable than before. And so if we were there, if we're considering it before, we should absolutely be considering it after. And so I'm 100% in on that.
These people are dangerous psychopaths. That's who governs you. Everywhere you go, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's the United States, this guy's a psychopath. This guy should have this guy shouldn't have the power to leave his house, much less to be running one of the world's most valuable companies.
That's why I'm a social anarchist.
And
I'm going to write a book about it.
I'm gonna put that on the soundboard. Baby, I'm an anarchist. You're a spineless liberal. And that's gonna be Keaton's theme. Keaton's gonna have his own theme. All right. So speaking of dangerous psychopaths, here's Scott Bessent explaining that, hey, unsanctioning the oil of Russia and Iran in order to keep down oil prices, that's what we call winning around here. That's winning, baby.
A plan across the administration and at Treasury. We unsanctioned Russian oil. We knew that there were about 130 million barrels on the water, and we created supply that is beyond the Straits of Hormuz. So we anticipated this. We knew that there could be a temporary, and I want to emphasize temporary, choke point there. And there was 130 million barrels of
checking the watch
storage.
there.
In the coming days, we may unsanction the Iranian oil that's on the water. It's about 140 million barrels. So depending on how you count it, that's 10 days to 2 weeks of supply that the Iranians had been pushing out. That would have all gone to China. In essence, we will be using the Iranian barrels against the Iranians to keep the price down for the next 10 or 14 days as we continue this campaign.
It's the old pay the people we're making war against in order to undermine the people we're making war against trick. I get it. That's some brilliant strategy right there.
This is like 2 weeks to flatten the curve, except where everyone dies.
Trump administration lifts sanctions on millions of barrels of Iranian oil. As oil prices soar, the Treasury Department has lifted sanctions on Iranian crude already loaded onto vessels, giving Iran's war effort against the U.S. a boost. I accidentally did not put in the what do you call those? Masthead. But that's the Washington Post. The action was met with bewilderment by many lawmakers and analysts who said it will provide the Iranian regime a cash infusion as it actively tries to kill U.S. soldiers on the battlefield. Quote, this move directly contradicts Trump's own statements that the United States is considering winding down this conflict said Brett Erickson, managing principal at Obsidian Risk Advisors, which specializes in financial crime and regulatory issues. Quote, you don't unsanction Iranian oil if you're winding down. This is the action of an administration that has no exit ramp and knows it. The word for that is desperation. Erickson questioned whether the action will have much of an impact on oil prices. Europe still has sanctions on Iranian oil, he said, and the firms that purchase it would still be taking a considerable risk. The market knows this, he said. That's why prices are unlikely to be impacted significantly. But hey, who thinks it's a great idea? Patriot Eric Doherty. Patriot Eric Doherty says, wow, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent just announced plans to use Iran's own oil against them. The strategy, unsanctioned 140 million Iranian barrels already on the water and unleash 10 to 14 days of supply. Trump's all-star team is unmatched. How do you fucking sleep at night, man? Jesus Christ. How do you not get this script from them and say, really? Do you want me to tweet that? Really? Unreal, man. Amazing. And hey, it should be no surprise we're fighting this war very incompetently. I think people think that America is competent at war because of Hollywood. Because actually, despite trillions spent, as it says here in the article, the U.S. military hasn't won a real war since 1945. I just came from a country where they got their asses kicked by farmers in farm clothes fighting with sandals on. Okay, like when do we win a war? Panama doesn't count. Okay, knocking over Panama to grab Noriega, that doesn't count. When have we won a war? So yeah, man, it's the same thing that people think America's intelligence services are really competent because of like these Mission Impossible movies, and they've always been uniquely incompetent relative to their peers. Omar Badar, T-minus 47 hours until the biggest global energy crisis in history. Never has someone this stupid ever had this much power or this much hubris. We are accelerating toward catastrophe that only Netanyahu has been dreaming of for 40 years. Brace yourself for the dark days ahead. So the question is really, will he pull the trigger? You sent this over to me earlier today. They're talking about what their conditions for a ceasefire might be. Now, I have another segment. I'm going to hold that to Tuesday about taking Karg Island. I think, and a lot of people think that's what they're sending the Marines for. It's the only thing that makes sense. It's not enough numbers for a ground invasion of Iran, so it has to be to take Karg Island. Maybe somebody actually blinked or, said, hey, this is going to be Gallipoli on steroids if we send Marines to take that island. And maybe that gave them pause. Like maybe somebody, probably not Pete Hegseth, said, maybe we don't want to do this. Maybe we don't want to do this. Maybe we don't want the spectacle of thousands of Marines being slaughtered trying to get to the island, much less landing on it. And if we're not going to take that island, the Iranians can hold that straight forever. So maybe we should start to talk terms. That's what that seems like to me. Although with Trump, I mean, that could just be pretending to negotiate, thinking he's slick. There's no telling. What we can say is the Iranians have made it quite clear that they're serious when they say these things. And if there is such an attack, and actually, I'm less worried that the United States is going to do that than that Israel are licking their chops hearing that response from Iran saying, oh, good, we're going to get Armageddon. And they're going to wind up hitting their energy supplies just to get that reaction to force World War III. More than that the United States is going to go ahead and do it. Although certainly that's possible. But it seems to me, even if the U.S. decides not to, Israel has every incentive to escalate the war by doing it themselves. It is, yeah, I feel like we're in a moment before real hell descends, like the real impacts of this. Even if the war stopped tomorrow, there are impacts and knock-on effects from this that have yet to be felt. If they start blowing out each other's infrastructure, we have no concept in this generation of what a world like that would be like, of a world that you're talking about a worldwide Great Depression. You're talking about total global economic collapse where people can't heat or cool their homes. I've been thinking about that being here. It is, dude, it's hot as an oven in Cambodia, and this is the cool season. What are they going to do? They can't afford any kind of fans, any kind of air conditioning. You got no energy. I mean, obviously, these people have had thousands of years to learn how to survive in the heat. I would think you would still have a lot of people would die without some kind of ability to cool homes and things. It's just, we have no concept of what's coming.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you assume that the goal here was to turn Iran into a failed state, i.e. Libya, i.e. Syria, that's just simply not going to happen. If it were to happen, it would take such a gargantuan effort and come at such a humanitarian toll. But, of course, that's moot, because before that could happen, Iran could choke the world's oil supply off to tank the global economy. So it's simply not doable. And this is why, there's a very annoying debate going around. Well, you shouldn't blame this on Israel, because by blaming it on Israel, you're exonerating the United States. That's nonsense. Both things can be true. And in this case, both things are true. The reason this can be squarely blamed on Israel as the leading agitator, and of course the United States is complicit insofar as we are their colleague and we're going along with this, right? Exonerating the United States of anything. This is completely psychotic. This is completely suicidal. There's no strategic interest for the United States in doing this, even looking at it through the most craven imperial lens possible. The mission is not achievable. You cannot collapse Iran before Iran collapses the global world order. That's the calculus.
Right, exactly.
And that's the obvious calculus. And so,
like, even
simply, you can't do it. It doesn't even make sense. Like, logically, it's not possible.
Even if they were going down, they would take you with them.
Well, you sure? Well, yeah. I mean,
they would blow everything.
Well, look at what Israel's doing to itself. I mean, Israel just got rocked in the south. They're losing infrastructure. They're losing people. Like, this is not even good for them. This is just demonic and insane. Maybe it's because Netanyahu doesn't want to go to jail. Maybe he's willing to literally end the world so that he doesn't go to jail for corruption, because this isn't benefiting Israel.
People believe
it really
that.
Isn't. I mean, they are leading the charge insofar as they are psychotic demons from hell, but there's no rational motive in it for them either. They're getting hit very hard by this too. Their civilians are suffering because of this too. It's just completely insane. It's insanity. And it has to stop, or else it's going to get much, much worse. And, for every indication Trump makes that he wants to stop, he then doubles and triples down. You're not going to out-threaten them. They understand that you're not going to take them down before they take the world economy down. Everything kind of simplifies to that, right? You don't have the time. Even if you wanted to turn them into a failed state, you don't have the time. Because before you could do that, the world's going to run out of ways to feed itself, to heat their homes, to cool their homes, as you just said. It's not winnable. It's a disastrous decision. And Donald Trump knows that. He understands that. As crazy as he is, he clearly knows that. That's why he's trying to gesture that it's being wrapped up. And it looks to me like the points of this so-called ceasefire that they're going to try and negotiate are essentially the Obama-Iran deal points, just without Obama's signature on it. So, just an absolute nightmare. There's no other real way to phrase it. Very easy to see coming. Once again, people with not much knowledge of this warned that this would be much worse than Iraq. It's going to be, if it is seen through. to anywhere near the kind of end that the Iraq War was seen through to. And so the only hope is that we figure out a way to pull back. But that's easier said than done now, because pulling back would mean telling the Israelis they're on their own, which is, of course, in our national interest to do so. But, of course, they're our greatest ally and all that.
Our greatest ally.
Yeah.
I was watching something. I can't remember what it was, but someone was talking about, there's the great irony. We've really been indoctrinated to believe that the Muslims and the Iranians are the religious fanatics. Israel is largely being driven by people who believe in a core mythology that Israel, when it's at its maximum moment of devastation, will be saved by God.
Right.
So for them, this is all going according to script.
Yeah. It's just absolute lunacy. And I feel like every time we cover every development is just one is crazier than the next. It just only goes one way, the wrong way. Okay. Eric Crusoe. What is this? The Jimmy Dore show now? We had a power outage, Eric Crusoe. Russell's in Cambodia, and I'm in upstate New York. If we're gonna send boots on the ground in Iran, could we just send ICE? They can even keep their masks. ICE is going to the airports tomorrow. ICE is going to the airports. That'll make travel really a real pleasure. You pay triple the price for the ticket, and then you have a bunch of impotent alcoholics with masks and guns waiting for you when you get here. Welcome to America.
Yeah,
imagine coming to see the Statue of Liberty.
Reassuring than the what's more reassuring than the smell of flop sweat as you go through security?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they're going to help the TS. Apparently, they're going to be doing TSA assistance because the lines are getting so long. Because TSA people are, I guess, not working because they're not being paid anymore because of the partial shutdown. And so now they're going to be assisting TSA. Do you imagine the videos that are going to come out of that? Take your shoes off, ma'am. I thought we don't have to.
Sorry.
Take your fucking shoes off now, bitch. Don't
take your fucking shoes off. Get down on the ground.
Get on the ground. Get over
on
here.
the ground. Watching this from overseas. I mean, I really didn't need to go overseas to say this. I said it when I was there. How is this a functioning state? How is this a functioning state? I mean, I'm going through states that have, the GDP of like one of the American states that don't have these problems.
Yeah.
Like it's ludicrous that America would be considered a leading nation. What? This is a nation that can't even staff its fucking airports. Are you joking?
Yeah.
You don't see this. And before this happened, going through customs in America is the worst of any country I've ever been to. Any other country, it's pretty quick. It's pretty quick. It's pretty efficient. It's only coming into JFK that I've ever had to stand on that line for like an hour and a half to get through customs. It's not like that anywhere else.
Yeah, just insane.
It's usually about 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes.
Right. I agree with Eric Crusoe. I mean, they like going after brown people, right? Just say they're brown people over there. There you go. Vientica says, and everything's a scam. Everything's a lie. Everything is hypocrisy. And so, thank you, Vienticus. Dominic D'Angelo, my condolences about your mom, Keaton. Thank you, Dominic. Appreciate that very much. And on a brighter, happier family note, I want to wish my oldest boys, Beckett and Sawyer, a very happy 7th birthday today. It is the twins' birthday today. So happy birthday on a nice day with them. So they enjoyed themselves. Virtuoso.
I saw your I saw Amanda put up a little thing about Sawyer. I guess she doesn't like Beckett, huh?
Did she put out something about Sawyer? Where did she post?
Yeah,
something?
Like wishing him a happy birthday. Yeah, I guess she doesn't like the other one.
No, that's Beckett. But she did both. Facebook. She does both individually. She likes to do both individually, which is good because
I just saw the one. I was like, sometimes you just like one of the kids more.
No, she makes a point to like do things individually. Like we give them each their own birthday card. We don't just say, "Hey, Beckett and Sawyer," because when they're twins,
they don't feel like a hive mind.
Exactly, they don't feel like it's everything is a twofer. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Virtuoso says, "You two had technical difficulties." More Tehran saying, "Take 5." Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Virtuoso. Race car. Thanks for the $20. The power going out was due to Chuck Norris meeting God in the afternoon. Funny, we had a very snowy winter this year, like very snowy winter upstate this year. A lot of snow, no power outages. Today we had like some light rain.
Yeah, I know that was
like mild climate,
dude,
like not bad at all.
Do you know
and
how
the
many
power goes
shows
out.
this guy's warned me the power might go out and it never did?
Yeah, never did. Never
And
did.
today
We've had
the
like
power goes out.
8 inches of snow outside, freezing cold, ice storms, nothing. Today's 40 degrees and rain. The power goes out. Vito, in memory of Keaton's mother. Maybe you'll find peace. Parkinson sucks. You all rock. Thank you, Vito.
That's nice, Vito.
Appreciate that very much. Sleepy Rod, what's up with the Dan Cohen versus Max Blumenthal?
You saw that? We got dragged. He dragged us into it.
Yeah. You know, typical Jew bullshit. You know, I don't know. I'm not really
sure.
Always
fighting.
Yeah, you know, our people are always fighting. You know, I think one of them owes the other one $8 from a bar tab a couple years ago. I don't know. Something about Danny Shaw. We interviewed Danny Shaw. What do we interview him? Once or twice? No, we interviewed him. Jimmy interviewed him. I think once. Yeah. I haven't really followed it, to be honest. Peter Monahan, Gator Pete, $5 just got paid my $1,230. So with abandon, have a coffee on me, and I love you too. Well, thank you, and congratulations on your payday there. Thank you for your unquestionable clarity. You're the best, Jake. Oh, look at that. Some love for Jake. Thank you, Gator Pete. Appreciate that very much. Michael Durkin, future sound drop, holiday in Cambodia by the Dead Kennedys. P.S. I know it's a work trip, Russ. Loving the Russ on the Road content. There we go. Nice.
Thank you. And let me say, Cambodia, other than the internet, is lovely. It's really nice. Like Phnom Penh is not at all what I expected. And it's interesting how distinct their culture is. Like, it's very different. The aesthetics, the music, the architecture. It's very like the Khmer style is very, very distinct and very beautiful. But it's also like this city I did not expect. Like, it's very like you've got trendy areas. Like, I did not expect that in Phnom Penh. I did not think it was going to be that way. It's interesting.
David Santucci says, I was sorry to hear about your mom, Keaton. Grief is the price we pay for love, but it's worth it. Well, thank you, David. Appreciate that very much. Santucci, again, the U.S. may have obliterated 100% of Iran's military capability, but it's that 0% that gets you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. He keeps saying we obliterated their military capability, yet they keep firing beyond their borders. Interesting. Meteor Dreams. If Israel uses the Samsung option, do you think North Korea's Kim Jong-un will use the Samsung option? Ha, good one. That's a joke. I like that. Samsung option. I like that, Meteor Dreams. Ian King, keep up the good fight. I work too damn much to rely on you both for my news. Well, thank you, Ian. Appreciate that very much, my friends.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that too much. All right, let's go to Cuba. We're going to do Russell's stories. We're going to do both of his, 2 out of 3 that are in the thumbnail up front.
Because we have no idea what's going to happen with the data gods.
Exactly.
Last time we tried this, it didn't go well, but I was probably later in the data cycle. I think that's probably what happened. I've been making a point of not using that phone for that reason, because, I have another phone going.
Right.
All right. So that's probably part of what's saving us tonight. All right, drop site. Cuba's second nationwide blackout this week as U.S. blocks fuel for over 3 months. Cuba's 11 million people were plunged into a second nationwide blackout this week after the U.S. blocked nearly all oil shipments to the island since January, leaving the country without fuel for more than 3 months. Tanker traffic has nearly stopped under Washington's maximum pressure campaign, with all major shipments intercepted, delayed, or forced to reroute. The last confirmed delivery was January 9th, 85,000 barrels from Mexico. Vessels now attempting to reach Cuba. Anatoly Kolodkin, sanctioned Russian tanker carrying 730,000 barrels of crude, currently 3,000 nautical miles out in the Atlantic, expected early April, could provide only short-term relief if delivered. Escort presence. The tanker is accompanied by a Russian naval destroyer, underscoring the geopolitical stakes as Moscow tests U.S. enforcement. Russian naval oiler traveling with the flotilla. U.S. officials say its cargo is too limited to significantly ease shortages. The impact of the fuel collapse. Multiple nationwide blackouts in March, including the second this week. A 29-hour grid collapse earlier this week left millions without power. Airports ran out of jet fuel by mid-February, grounding most international flights. Trash collection has largely stopped in Havana as diesel supplies ran out. So yes, the U.S. has made clear they consider these Russian tankers under sanction, and they're not allowed to go to Cuba. Last I heard, they're still on their way to Cuba, so we will see how that plays out. What is it with us facing off with the Russians over Cuba? Every damn time, every time. So this is from Al Jazeera, a little bit about what's going on the island. Cubans, I'll just take it back to the beginning. Cubans protest multi-day power outage under U.S. blockade. Cubans in Havana and other cities banged pots in the streets after the power grid collapsed, leaving 10 million people without electricity. Streets were lit only by headlights and small lamps. No, get used to it? No one can get used to that. I live on the 17th floor of this building. It's very hard to go out and come back home, and now I have to climb 17 floors. And when I get there, there is no water because there has been no electricity all day. It is very hard. And if you are carrying groceries, what you need to cook and eat, it is even harder, believe me. The outages follow years of strain on an aging system that has been hampered by decades of U.S. blockade and is now worsened by U.S.-imposed fuel shortages. Protests have spread beyond Havana to cities like Morón and Santiago de Cuba. The power cuts also affect water pumps, leaving many homes without running water. It is not just that there is no power, there is no water, no electricity, no gas. There is no water because there is no electricity to run the pumps. There is no electricity, no food, no oil, no fuel. And private businesses have high prices because everything is going up now since they have to move their goods by truck and transport. All of this is really very bad. So yeah, no, that's America. Fuck yeah, right? That's what we do. We make old ladies climb 17 stories with their groceries to find no water in their apartments. We're doing great. We're doing great stuff around the world. And hey, file this under chutzpah. Cuba rejects U.S. embassy request to bring in fuel. Calls it shameless. An effective U.S. oil blockade has worsened the island's energy crisis. The U.S. embassy in Havana is feeling the effects. The embassy asked them to bring in diesel for that. Like, you can't make it up.
It's getting a little humid in here. You mind if you bring in some fuel for the generators? Maybe we can get some AC on in here.
And can you bring in some of those cabana boys they used to have around here, right? With the palm fronds to wave them around. Could you bring us some iced martinis? Tons of aid flows into Cuba as humanitarian convoy arrives on the struggling island. So a lot of our friends are on that convoy. A lot of people we admire from afar are on that convoy. Some 650 delegates from 33 countries and 120 organizations have started arriving in Cuba as part of a solidarity caravan transporting some 20 tons of humanitarian aid as the island grapples with a severe energy crisis. So I'm betting our sharp-eyed viewers noticed what's batshit about that headline. Large horchata sure did. The island grapples with a severe energy crisis is kind of like Iran grapples with a severe amount of explosions, or residents of Gaza grapple with a severe drop in life expectancy since October 2023. Yeah, this is where, I don't think the Ellisons should be going on a scorched earth rampage through the American media. But I really don't know how different it's going to be, honestly, when you look at how corporate media slants its headlines in that way. Oh, yeah, no, they're grappling with an energy crisis. That's what's going on. Some 650 delegates from 33 countries and 120 organizations began arriving in Cuba on Friday as part of a solidarity caravan transporting some 20 tons of humanitarian aid as the island grapples with a severe energy crisis. Members of Our America Convoy to Cuba arrived by air from Italy, France, Spain, the United States, and several Latin American countries, and more are scheduled to arrive by sea on Saturday in a flotilla of 3 vessels from Mexico, organizers reported. A group of activists arrived in Havana on Wednesday in advance and delivered donations to hospitals. Solar panels, food, and medicine to treat cancer are among the products donated to the island, which has been brought to a near standstill since Trump imposed an energy embargo in January. Oh, they got to it. What was that? The 5th, 6th paragraph that they certainly know, being in the news business, most people never get to.
Yeah, exactly.
Exacerbating a 5-year economic crisis as his administration pressures for a change in the political system. So here is Medea Benjamin and Code Pink departing for Cuba. All right. Good job, guys.
Know what I noticed on that plane? Here, I'll make people happy. I noticed a lot of boomers on that plane. Good for you. Good for the boomers getting on that
Yes. Plane. Yes. That's right.
Yeah. You happy now? Leave us
those
alone
are the
for
good
a few
ones.
Weeks. Yeah, those are the good ones on there. Okay. So how about you leave us alone for a few weeks? How about that?
We're like boomer racists. Yeah, there are a few good ones.
Those are the good ones.
Those aren't the ones I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ones that cause the high property values and don't want to allow affordable housing in their neighborhoods. Those are the ones you got to watch out for. All right. So here's a convoy coming out of Mexico that they mentioned there. Should have arrived by now. Now I want you to take a look at this because the conversation, the way the algorithm on X is boosting the most regarded people in the universe in regards to their reaction to this. The basic take is the Fox News classic. Oh, look at these privileged people and what are they really doing for these people? So these people don't look all that privileged to me, and what they're bringing seems pretty invaluable. Hello, my sisters and my brothers. We are almost leaving here from Mexico to Cuba in the convoy in Western America in a flotilla. Here we have 14 tons of food. That seems pretty valuable to people who are starving, right? 14 tons. I bet if you were starving, you'd appreciate people bringing 14 tons of food. Medicines, 73 large solar panels. Well, yeah. If anything, if Cuba survives this, it's probably going to wind up being the world's leading consumer of solar power, because you're really giving them the motive to accelerate that process, which they were already doing. And guess who was helping them do it? China. One country brings solar panels, the other country brings death. I wonder why so many countries want to do business with China instead of us now. 73 large solar panels. We have 10 bicycles, 1 power generator, and a lot of solidarity. We have a few days of travel ahead of us, and well, we can't wait to be in Cuba. These things deserve to arrive. Solidarity cannot be blocked. We are together. A big hug, and let's change the world. So you see, they're not only good boomers, they're just good people. They're good people all over the world. Not as many in America as other places, but they exist. Look, all those Code Pink people, they're mostly American. Speaking of good people, here's Jeremy Corbyn, who's part of this effort.
Havana as part of a delegation bringing medical aid and support to Cuba and expressing our solidarity with the Cuban people. They're under the cosh from the United States. They've been under the cosh from the United States ever since 1960. But this time it's kind of worse. And it's worse because President Trump has said he wants to destroy Cuba. Most other presidents have used more restrained language. But he's also imposed a blockade of all energy supplies into Cuba. And so there are electricity blackouts for 14 hours per day for many people. There are obviously problems in running airports and running restaurants, or indeed running hospitals or anything else. So we're here out of solidarity. We've brought a lot of medical aid and quite a lot of solar equipment, but we're also looking at ways to support Cuba in the future to wean off fossil fuels and use the sustainable energy that Cuba has, the wind and the sun. And President Trump cannot take that away.
That's what you think. That's what you think. Melania always tells me I took all the sunshine out of her life. So Hassan Piker is also part of this effort. And yeah, I know he can be kind of a goofball, but what he says here is pretty interesting, especially at a moment when you have Iranians who benefited from the torture regime of the Shah trying to install his son and celebrating the bombing of their fellow citizens. These people you see from these countries are the worst representatives of those countries. That's why they're in America. That's why they came to America. So he talks about the difference between Miami Cubans and Cuban Cubans.
Okay. So kind, so welcoming, just the best, just the absolute best people. Oh, my Lord. Okay. Not in Miami. Oh, dude, it's the reversal. Actually, literally like the exact opposite. Like all the good Cubans stayed here. And most of the ones that are crazy just like flew up there. I swear to God. So March and I were about to discuss. We get into Uber last night. March and I were about to discuss that we're gonna be flying to Cuba, like talking about plans, right? And I was like, March, don't say anything. Because I noticed that the dude in the car was a Miami Cuban. I was like, I literally went, don't say anything. And then I just asked him, I was like, where are you from? And he's like, oh, Cuba. And I was like, okay. And I just asked him about like, you know, what his feelings are about what's going on. March actually spat some Spanish at him. Okay. And let me tell you, okay. He said, Donald Trump needs to finish the job. That's what he said. That was the first guy. And this is like, I guess this was March's first real interaction with like a Miami Cuban. You know what I mean? This was his first ever interaction with a real Miami Cuban, like a real ass Miami Cuban, right? So he was like kind of shocked. So March had not experienced that at all. So that was like his first ever inclination. And the guy had no family here. They were all in Miami, right? So like, you know, obviously he was the classic, like, you know, bomb it all, like God sorted out type guy. I feel like there's this it's a very strange predicament. It's a very strange situation. They have this very weird attitude about it. On the one hand, they understand what their families' lives looked like or felt like when there was a little bit of sanctions relief, and like they could send money with ease to their families. You know what I mean? Like it's just such a strange cognitive dissonance to experience in real time.
and this is from James from Good Vibe Politics, who's part of the convoy as media. There's something supremely saddening and enraging about seeing a hospital running on bare minimum power, thinking about dialysis patients, babies in NICU, and others tonight in Cuba. This is a blockade of death. And Nathan Robinson's there. The blackout here in Cuba is eerie and disturbing. Whole streets with zero light, every window dark, and then you see shapes moving in the darkness and realize people are trying to live their lives. I cannot believe how cruel this U.S. policy is. We could stop this. In theory, yeah. I think the reason all these ICE agents have been hired is for exactly such a moment, so they can come out and start killing people, calling them terrorists, locking them up in detention. And Kneecap is there, and they shared a video, streets of Havana right now, full blackout across the entire island, hospitals, nursing homes, people's lives, all in total darkness for U.S. imperialism. Fucked up. Kneecap also did, this was actually shared out by Chris Smalls, who's also there. They put on a free concert for the Cuban people to lift their spirits. All right, so here's a good example of what I'm talking about. Ali London, another patriot. Western liberals party in Cuba after arriving to end the blockade, despite blaming the U.S. for leaving the Cuban people in darkness without electricity. So the U.S. has not left the Cuban people in darkness without electricity. A great woman once said, a revolution without dancing is a revolution not worth having. You can't just make everything joyless. And these people, with all of the suffering that they're going through, I'm sure appreciated having a free concert from a famous band. That is part of building solidarity. This is, like I said, this is the classic Fox News playbook, right? Anybody who tries to help anybody is actually the privileged one, not the people like Scott Bessent or Donald Trump, billionaires who decide to cut off oil from an impoverished nation. They're not the privileged ones. The privileged ones are the ones who try to bring them food and medicine. And this one's going around quite a lot. And I wanted to make a point here. Angry Cuban man goes to the hotel where the Code Pink communists are staying in Cuba. I don't think they're mostly communists in Code Pink, but okay. They get to enjoy electricity thanks to a generator, but 99.9% of Cubans are without any electricity tonight after the nationwide blackout. Okay, so hey, why would they need power? Why would an effort that is both aimed at bringing aid and bringing attention to the plight of the Cuban people, why would they consider it a priority to bring them power? Well, I have one possible explanation we could say play out in real time in this press conference with Kneecap.
An excuse to party. Like, we'll party at the drop of a hat, and it's beautiful actually to come here friendly and to see, the similarities between Cuba and Ireland. we have such shared history, and just to see everyone out there, you know, the resilience.
Oh, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why. Yeah, kind of hard to do press conferences, interviews, stream out the effort, build awareness with no fucking power. Yeah, maybe that's why they felt it was a priority to give power to these celebrities coming to the island to draw attention to what the U.S. is doing there. That might be the reason, jackass.
Well, also apparently Hassan Piker said on Twitter, and I can't verify this as fact, but I'm assuming he knows the deal because he's going there. Apparently, there's certain legal restrictions as to where you, as an American, can and cannot stay in Cuba.
Yeah,
I looked at
at
like the 4-star facilities or whatever that are going to have generators. Apparently, that's what he said.
He got community noted on that. Like,
so that's not real.
Said,
okay.
They say you can't. I mean, who knows what the community note? But what the community note on that was you can't stay at state-owned.
Right,
hotel.
You have to stay at the private-owned, which tend to be the more luxury areas, right?
Yes. Yes.
Which are going to tend to have power, whereas you tend to have means to power themselves. Yeah.
Well, if you look at what they were showing, though, I mean, based on that man's video, it's hard to say, but it looks like that specific floor was given power. But again, like, this is a whole media effort.
Well,
how are you going to do that without power? Like, you have to give power to have these press conferences and have these people streaming out what they're doing. Like, that is part of the effort.
Right.
After several weeks, and back to the ABC article, after several weeks in which the only aid received by Cuba came from Mexico, which sent food and hygiene products on 3 occasions, activists and leaders in other countries began establishing support groups and collecting donations. President Miguel Diaz-Canel expressed his gratitude on social media. Quote, "They bring shipments of aid to combat the attempt to suffocate us. Welcome once again to the compassion of the people. Solidarity always returns to those who practice it with no other interest in human well-being," the president stated. For its part, Brazil announced it would send 20,000 tons of food, primarily rice, beans, and powdered milk. A group of Chilean parliamentarians also arrived with aid on Thursday, and China reported through its embassy that a ship carrying 60,000 tons of rice set sail for Cuba. So here's some of those reactions I was talking about, which I got to say, man, between the two of us, which is funny, because I'm the older one, Keaton tends to be a little more black-pilled than me. This is the kind of shit that makes me say, just let the country burn. I recognize it's not everybody, but you just have a special level of just bilious regard in America that is culturally unique. Culturally unique. You know what? The only country I know of where you can find people kind of like this is England, and I don't think that's an accident. Matt Ralou. No mention of who funds Code Pink. I'll help. I know journalism is hard. It's China. No evidence for that. No evidence. I mean, you have a lot of Republican politicians like to say that. You have Nancy Pelosi, right? She likes to say that. I wonder if this person understands he's agreeing with Nancy Pelosi there. Lauren Cheetah. They deserve to remain there. Block their return home. 2A, the island is grappling from decades of communism. Well, that's a sentence. That's a sentence. You're a real smarty, I can tell.
Yeah, no,
Kevin Scott. Yeah, that's brilliant. Kevin Scott. Socialism is so cool until you need to eat, work, and live. So is there something going on that's causing these problems there that have nothing to do with their economic system whatsoever? How about they cut off oil from the United States? Would you say, capitalism is cool until you need to turn the lights on?
Well, there's an old saying, the problem with communism is eventually the capitalists bomb you.
Yes,
that
was Trotsky, right?
Yeah,
Trotsky
it's an old saying.
That's why he left.
I love how they should remain there, block their return. Okay, moron, your president is threatening to basically overthrow the Cuban government and turn it into one more agreeable to the United States. So one or the other. Like, if you're going to tell them they should stay there, okay, well, if they stay there, you're going to leave the country the fuck alone then? You're going to just let them do their thing? Or you're going to go in and overthrow it? Like, if your attitude is, well, hey, this is a FAFO, you want to be communist, this is what happened. I mean, it's completely insane because they're under siege right now.
Yeah. Well, of course.
But that aside, if that's your attitude, then leave them the fuck alone, right? Like, if you have such contempt for them and you think, well, they reap what they sow, okay, then leave them alone. Let them reap what they sow. Like, why is it that, no, then we have to go in. It doesn't even make sense. But like, it's not even worth arguing. Like, these people are becoming less and less worth engagement. Like, anyone who mentions the words 47 years now is just an unbelievable moron. You hear somebody talk about for 47 years, they say we're the great Satan. I mean, you're just a complete fucking imbecile. Anybody who says 47 years, my advice to you is do not argue with them. Just say, okay, if that's how you feel, I really think that you should sign up when they put boots on the ground. You should go fight. That's it. Like that. Like, nah, I'm not even going to bother. You are. I have such little respect for you. I'm not even going to try to convince you of anything. I'm just going to say, if you really feel that way, that it's really important that we put boots on the ground in Iran because they've insulted us for 47 years, then I think you should go fight. And if you do, God bless you. Good luck.
Yes. Yes. One more banger here. Isn't communism awesome? And all it takes is the generosity of capitalist nations. I mean, like, the level of stupid required to even type that is mind-boggling, to your point. But hey, here's our friend Professor Zenkus to set the record straight. Cuba, these people never ask, why did they have a communist revolution? Like, they just woke up. It's not easy to overthrow a government. You have to be pretty highly motivated to do that. Cuba before the revolution was a horror show, bankrolled by the mafia, U.S. intelligence, and wealthy U.S. businessmen. Dictator Fulgencio Batista's reign of terror knew no bounds. They gouged out political prisoner Abel Santamaria's eyes in front of his family. The bodies of hundreds of political prisoners showed signs of severe torture. Anyone suspected of opposing the government could be rounded up, imprisoned, tortured, or even executed in the street. Batista's Bureau for the Repression of Communist Activities, which carried out the torture and extrajudicial killings, was trained by the CIA at the same time the U.S. government was carrying out a program of political repression against suspected communists in the U.S., in which labor organizers, journalists, and members of the Hollywood elite were targeted, leaving their careers and lives in ruins. The American mafia in Cuba, led by Meyer Lansky, Lucky Luciano, and Santo Traficante Jr., paid Batista to kill, torture, and intimidate any suspected Cuban dissenters with the goal of keeping Havana safe and quiet so their empire of drug trafficking, human trafficking, and gambling could continue unabated. The belief that pre-revolution Cuba was anything but a deadly, despotic hellhole run by gangsters is a cute story, but nowhere is it based in reality. Make no mistake, when the capitalists say they want to free Cuba from the revolutionary government, this is what they have in mind. Yeah, yes, I got into that in my Dubai piece. Their ideal world is a world like Dubai, where you have a nosebleed level of wealth among a very few people, and everyone else is a servant. Everyone else is there to entertain and wait on them. They want workers with no rights at the bottom of the social hierarchy, living in squalid housing and working as many hours as a human can work without dying for as low a wage as they can pay. If they find your daughter attractive, they want her to be for sale. They want to be able to buy her and make her a sex slave in their deranged Epstein-esque perversions. And that's the world they like, man. That's the world they want. That's what they're working towards. You look at an Amazon warehouse, that's pointing the way towards what they want, and they'll put AI in charge of making you a slave. That is absolutely what they want. What would they turn Cuba into? That it blew my mind, man. When I was in Vietnam, one of the tour guides talked about how they're sending rice to Iraq, because she said we have warm feelings toward Iraq because when we were under sanction from the United States, Saddam Hussein sent us food. So we're sending them food now. I didn't know anything about that. No, I'm not saying, oh, Saddam was a great guy. But but are we? You know what I mean? Like, there's a whole other alternate history of the world that we just don't know anything about. Like I've never heard that. I'm assuming it's true. But yeah, like this is as naked an example of just imperial cruelty as you could imagine. And regarding communism, it's pretty funny that the communist countries that aren't sanctioned are thriving. Vietnam, China, they're not sanctioned, they're thriving. Pretty strange. Those countries are doing so well if communism doesn't work. It seems like the only communist countries that really have this problem are the countries that are sanctioned, like Cuba. If anything, the fact that Cuba has survived under those circumstances for this long is an argument that the system must work pretty damn well, that they did not collapse as a nation under such enormous pressure from the United States after all of these decades to be able to send doctors around the world, to have developed a world-class medical system, to have a higher rate of literacy than most of the Latin American world, even as you're depriving them of basic necessities in that way. It's an argument for the strength of the system. Yeah, of course. I mean, any system, including ours, you deprive them of the basic necessities of life, like oil, they're going to have their power collapse. How long would America last without oil? A week? 2 weeks? This is going on since January in this country.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the example of Venezuela versus Argentina, that was, late last year, you were starting to see, right before the kidnapping of Maduro, you saw the bombing of the boats, and you saw, just the very aggressive actions against Venezuela, which was surviving despite them. And then you have the example of Argentina, which is on life support despite our interventions to boost their economy up. What do we bail them out to the tune of $40 billion, right? And you still have just widespread
a lot of which
extreme
benefited Scott.
Yeah,
Scott Percent's criminal friends. Yeah,
you still had widespread extreme poverty and immiseration there versus Venezuela, despite every effort to destroy it, was able to stand strong. And apparently now the government still stands despite the kidnapping of Maduro. This kind of took the spotlight off of that, this meaning Cuba, and of course the war in Iran. It's just an absolute horror just to think of anybody who's on a ventilator in those hospitals is dead if there's no power in the hospital. Babies in the NICU. It's just murder. And for what? For what you said. They want to turn these countries into plantations for American corporations, and then they essentially want to lock people in them, right? Because they want a secure border, so they don't want anybody fleeing those countries and coming up here. They don't want those countries reforming their systems. They basically just want slave plantations for American corporations, which is what Cuba was pre-Castro, and what they're going to try and turn it back into now. And it is amazing. It is amazing given its proximity to Florida. I mean, people row from Cuba to Florida. It's a rowing distance that it has stood for as long as it has. It really is. It really is an amazing story. All right.
Yes.
Let me do one of these reads, and we'll take some super chats and Rumble rants here. All right, folks. Well, let me give you a little inside scoop. Here's a little inside scoop that many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons that we use Rumble. Rumble made a way to super chat creators so we get paid immediately and without any fees. So while YouTube and Twitch can take up to 50% fees when you tip us, this method takes none. That's right, 0 platform fees. We keep nearly 100% of what you send us. So you can super chat us with Bitcoin, Tether, USD, or even Tether Gold stable coins through Rumble Wallet. And the tip will show up directly through the Rumble chat, which we, of course, read all of your Rumble chat. So all you need to do is download the Rumble Wallet on the App Store and send the tips to your favorite creators, i.e. us. You can go to wallet.rumble.com, or you can download the app directly from the App Store. Seriously, what an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. Shout out to Rumble, of course, for making this disruptive technology. You Rumble rant us just the same way you would now. Just when you go to Rumble Rant, when you have Rumble Wallet, you could tip in either USD or through your Rumble Wallet. So go to wallet.rumble.com or find Rumble Wallet in the App Store. You could scan the QR code there on the screen for more information as well. That's wallet.rumble.com. Okay, let's move on. You got some super chats there. I got them stacked up for you there. You can take some.
Oh yeah, hang on. Where do I find them?
They're in the banners section.
Oh, they're going to be down. All right, right. Yep. Vienticus Prime. I hate to say it, but all these wars are in actuality an American victory because the goal of every war we've had is to have American soldiers die for nothing. Yep. Noah Linden, member, 6 months. Thank you, Noah. Unfortunately, America won in Libya, Iraq, Syria, and many other wars. They installed puppet governments and then withdrew. I mean, you know, they didn't directly go to war, but if you want to say they manipulated the situation to collapse the states, yeah. I mean, I guess you could say the CIA has won a lot of battles. P. Walker, Marines being sent to interdict all ships the Iranians let through is my bet. That's what Obama retasked them to do in 2009, basically piracy. Maybe. I mean, they've been doing piracy in Latin America. What's to stop them doing it there? It's a good point. Eric Rousseau, I'm rooting for Gog and Magog. So are the Israelis. Vienticus Prime, mo money, mo problems, Russ. That's why the U.S. is failing. It often works out that way. Vienticus Prime, when I heard about Chuck Norris dying, the first thing I thought about was the set of ad reads that were recently making the rounds.
About how young he looks. Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. Kedman G. In honor of Afro Man, we should go off the petrodollar and gold and adopt a new financial standard, the pound cake. Ex-Barbarian. I haven't made rant in a few weeks. You know, it's really, really hard to imagine this is stupidity or even the results of just a few maniacs. Not much happens accidentally. They know the outcome bad. Going to be in another world by next year, brother. I'm sorry to say. Empire we are. The DOD has never fought in a declared war. All wars of choice since the passing of the National Security Act of 1947. Obvious to me who runs things. Yeah, it's police actions. It's, yeah. Okay, are you taking down chats?
Yeah, I'm just taking some down.
I've just messed up the whole order. Now I don't know where I am.
Okay, now
Benjamin Vito. Let's hope Trump lives up to being the Taco Don. Cool Cat. We talk about how the war will affect farming. We did drop a video of a farmer talking about how the fertilizer prices had already gone up. It was just like in a week it had gone up like over 30%. But yeah, I'm sure we're going to get into that again, especially as it gets worse, sadly. Stanley, have you watched Richard Medhurst's latest stream where he posits that the Iran war and the Ukraine war were done so that the U.S. could monopolize LNG? I have not, but yes. I mean, there's a lot of, you could definitely see it that way. And with oil, too, like increased oil prices. Trump said that straight out. But it's good for us. By us, he means him and his friends. It's good for them. It's not good for you. You're not an us, Donald Trump. The USMC has been reconfigured to be an anti-shipping force. The USMC gave up their tanks and towed artillery for anti-shipping missiles. This will be the first test of this new. I got you. Dark matter zombies. Yo, Landrew.
What's up, Landrew?
Never fuck with people who invented algebra. Iran will decide when this is over. No one else. We are all Palestinians now. Free Palestine.
Thank you, Andrew. You got a cowbell?
Yeah.
You got a prayer bell for a friend over
got
here?
a prayer bell. We got to save Landrew's soul. All right. Why am I not putting these up on the screen? I don't know why. All right. Joshua. Thank you, ma'am. All right. And David Santucci. Russ, any sense of the reaction to the end of the empire where you are? Amused, jubilant, ecstatic? All right. So I kind of touched on this in my last live stream on my channel on Russ on the Road. They don't think about us as much as you think they do. Like once you get out here, they're not tied into the whole American media ecosystem, Western obsession with America. That's really not where they're coming from, man. It's really not. Like you look at their movie theaters, they got their own movies, man. Like they're not really watching our movies. They only have the vaguest sense of what's going on over there. Like that is the impression I've gotten, that they don't pay a lot of attention to America, don't really care, don't want to know. Actually, I'm probably going to depress some people here. A lot of people have, and I think it's connected, a very positive view of America. Like they still have like that vision of the, American dream. I talked to a Buddhist monk yesterday, and I interviewed him. So that'll go up at some point. Who's going to quit being a monk because he wants to go out in the world. He was younger, he was 27. And I asked him about America. And I said, I think it's very good there. I think it's very great. I didn't contradict him, but, I've gotten that a lot, man. That's what, and the proof is in the pudding. I asked why there's Starbucks here when you have such great coffee when I was in Vietnam. And they said it's the brand. So that means that brand has value. Why?
Right.
So Andy Gardner, I panic when we lose power for an hour in a storm. Rothschilds are strict but fair overlords. The crumbs help me eat at least. Good one there. Tommy, are we getting an Afro Man story tonight? Not tonight.
No, we did. Well, we ended up clipping the one that we did. I ended up editing what little we covered of him into a clip because it was such a hot story. So there's a little clip of Afro Man, but yeah, I think it's a disgrace that you did not put Afro Man in the intermission. That is a historic snub of a great man, a great American.
It is, but you know what is in the intermission? As promised, I've got pretty much in its entirety that Vietnamese band doing Sweet Home Alabama.
Oh, awesome.
Complete with the white trash dancing. It's a very surreal scene.
Yeah.
Brad Gilbert, just like with COVID lockdown, smaller nations are beta tested. Yep. That's what Cuba's for now for the upcoming energy lockdowns. WEF is not done, folks. They definitely test out things over there that they plan on using on their own populations, no doubt. Ian King, instead of America fuck yeah, it should be America what the fuck.
Yeah, right,
That's going to be the sequel.
Yeah.
All right, I'll do one more. We'll go to your story. Eric Rousseau. So how are they doing at Guantanamo Bay Prison? No power to imprison the terrorists? Oh, I'm sure they have their own power.
I'm sure they got generators there. Indeed.
All right.
All right. Let's move right on along, folks, here. First of all, before we do that, we got a great crowd in here.
I am Landrew. Landrew is dead.
There we go. 3356 in the year
2525.
And 1181 in the like column. Thanks all for being here. Let's smash that like button even harder. And don't forget, we got Q&A tonight after the main show. All right, let's move right on along here. Jake, we'll do the scroll after this segment. We're going a little out of order here for Russ's tech. Thank you, my friend. Alrighty, folks. So Robert Mueller has passed away. That's right. Robert S. Mueller III, 81, dies. Rebuilt FBI and led Trump inquiry. Robert S. Mueller III, who led the Federal Bureau of Investigation for 12 tumultuous years, brought politically explosive indictments as a special counsel examining Russia's attack. They're still going with this. Attack, says the New York Times, on the 2016 presidential election, and then concluded that he could neither absolve nor accuse President Trump of a crime that died on his crowning achievement is an inconclusive report, huh? He was 81. Mr. Trump remained unforgiving of Mr. Mueller's investigation even after Mr. Mueller's death. On learning of it on Saturday, the president posted on Truth Social, "Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people." Yep, that's the real tweet right there.
That's my job.
Yeah. Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. Exclamation point. President Donald J. Trump. Yeah, there's no real mystery that you wrote that one yourself. I don't think you had to sign that one. So Stephen Smith was very offended by this. See, this is BS I'm talking about. This is the BS I'm talking about. This is a disgusting thing coming from our commander-in-chief, especially about a veteran and Purple Heart recipient. Damn shameful. Piers Morgan agrees. Agreed. President Trump should stay away from his phone when people he doesn't like die. Rest in peace, Robert Mueller, and thank you for your service. Now, here is Trump's former lawyer, who kind of assisted him through the Russiagate probe, who since turned on him. Ty Cobb, yes, same name as the baseball player, and apparently same style as well. To think this guy wakes up every morning and twirls that mustache, and every morning thinks, nailed it, ready to go, ready to take on the world with this look here. Here is Ty Cobb reacting to Donald Trump's insensitive remarks about the passing of Robert Mueller.
Never be questioned. His character should be questioned. What the president said today, of course, is petty, shameful, despicable, and undignified. Sadly, that is the president we have. But fortunately, in American history, we've had people like Bob Mueller, and hopefully our better angels like Bob can get us beyond the fascism that we're experiencing at this moment.
Yeah, you're referring to your former boss there, President Trump, and I was actually just going to ask you your reaction, because you did help President Trump navigate that investigation that Robert Mueller was conducting into him those years ago, and yet you stand here saying giving testimony to Robert Mueller's character, calling him a class act in the aftermath of that investigation. How do you rectify the fact that, we're seeing this kind of response from the president, someone you worked for, and what does it say about where we are as a country when families at their most vulnerable state? Here it is on your screen. Basically, the president saying it's good that Robert Mueller died.
So that's the type of person that President Trump is. He's a demented narcissist. Seriously hates anybody who stands in opposition to him, has reworked the Justice Department into a revenge machine, and rules the country in a very authoritarian manner, with the assistance of a cowardly cabinet and even more cowardly Republicans in Congress. And that's tragedy. That's something we're all having to deal with.
Well, you know who was very on message about this is Scott Bessent. When he was asked about Trump's remarks, he defended the boss.
A different topic about a post by President Trump from yesterday responding to the death of former special counsel Robert Mueller. He posted this, quote, "Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people." Do you think it's appropriate for the President of the United States to celebrate the death of an American citizen, someone who's a Bronze Star, Purple Heart recipient and who served in Vietnam?
Kristen, I was with the president in the green room at Davos, and there was a video playing of the what may have been an illegal raid on his home at Mar-a-Lago. They are going through his wife's wardrobe, and I watched the look in his eye, and I think that neither one of us can understand what has been done to the president.
They sniffed his wife's panties. I told the president, I said, "You want me to go track them down and beat their ass for you, boss?" Don't forget, this guy, he's the hammer in the White House. This guy goes around beating people up.
And to his family.
But to the question of the president's post, I mean, Robert Mueller didn't order that raid. Is it appropriate for the president to celebrate the death of any American citizen,
Again,
Mr. Secretary?
I think that given what has been done to President Trump and his family, it is impossible for either of us to understand what he has been through.
So you don't think that there's anything wrong with the post saying, good, Robert Mueller's dead?
Again, I think that we should all have a little empathy for what has been done to him and his family.
All right. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, thank you as always for being here.
There you go. No breaking Scott Bessent. Well, of course, Gavin Newsom, would-be presidential nominee, says Trump despises anyone with a deep sense of duty, discipline, and patriotism. Rest in peace, Robert Mueller. George W. Bush gave a statement. "Laura and I are deeply saddened by the loss of Robert Mueller. Bob dedicated his life to public service. As a Marine in Vietnam, he proved he was ready for tough assignments." Yeah, Russ got a taste of what those tough assignments were. "He earned a Bronze Star and Purple Heart before returning home to pursue law. In 2001, only 1 week into the job as the 6th director of FBI, Bob transitioned the agency mission to protecting the homeland after September 11th. He led the agency effectively, helping prevent another terrorist attack on U.S. soil. Laura and I send our heartfelt sympathy to his wife of nearly 60 years, Anne, and the Mueller family." So let's take a little look at what George W. Bush means by helped to protect the homeland and prevent another terrorist attack on U.S. soil. This is a case that, of course, is near and dear to me. This took place in my hometown. We've covered this a few different times on the show when it's come up. This is the case of the Newberg Four, who were entrapped by Robert Mueller's FBI in a mission he was very, very proud of after the fact and remained proud of years later, which I will show you. This is where an FBI informant, a complete lowlife criminal himself, went into a mosque and recruited one black man into a terrorist attack scheme, who then recruited 3 more black men, one of whom was severely mentally ill, into a fake plot, a textbook case of entrapment so obvious that the same judge who sentenced the men commuted their sentence and chastised the FBI for what was clearly a setup. So let's just take a brief look. This is a news report after the first 3 were released. The 4th has since been released, the so-called ringleader, quote unquote.
In court for 3 men convicted in a terrorism sting more than a decade ago.
Police arrested the men last night as they were allegedly planting what they thought were real bombs outside a Jewish temple.
A federal judge ordering the release of Anta Williams, David Williams, and Laguerre Payne, 3 of the men known as the Newberg Four, arrested for a plot to blow up synagogues in New York City and shoot down National Guard planes in upstate New York.
The suspects allegedly conducted surveillance and took photos of possible targets.
In a scathing decision, U.S. District Judge Colleen McMahon accusing FBI agents of trying to arrest petty criminals by radicalizing the men to participate in a plot she called an FBI-orchestrated conspiracy. McMahon adding, quote, the real lead conspirator was the United States.
That sounds like strong language, but it's just a pure description of the facts of this case.
The judge also accusing the FBI of using a, quote, villain of an informant to prey on the poor, then manipulate the men to commit a fake crime in exchange for cash, materials, and even groceries.
The defense is starting to raise questions about the informant and whether these men were duped.
Every step of the way was all the FBI. These guys couldn't. They had no driver's licenses. They couldn't find Google Maps of where these targets are that the FBI informant told them to use. I mean, they came up with not one single part of this plot. It was all the FBI.
That FBI informant, Shahid Hussein, who made headlines again when a stretch limo operated by his company crashed in rural New York, killing 20 people.
Operating an illegal limo company without proper licensing killed 20 people in a crash. That was the informant. They're on camera throughout the film in evidence expressing very, very emphatically that they did not intend to hurt people, only commit property crimes. And we since interviewed one of the defendants after they got out of jail. They spent 15 years in jail. They were sentenced to 25 years. They spent 15 years in jail. Just an insane sentence for a crime that they were completely entrapped into. He said they weren't even intent on doing anything at all. They were just taking money from this guy, this informant. Every time he met them, he would pay them.
Right.
And the ringleader,
they were conning him.
They were conning him. They were basically just telling him, yeah, we're going to do it. And he would give them money every time they expressed commitment to the cause. And they were just kind of scamming him.
Hussein now serving a 5 to 15-year prison sentence
That's not
for
Hussein.
that crash.
That's, I guess, the driver.
We have not heard
Maybe. I
back
don't
from
know who
his
that
lawyers.
The FBI says this man, James Crimity, was the alleged ringleader.
In the Newberg case, the federal judge who granted the release also accusing Hussein of recruiting James Cromedy, who was believed to be the ringleader of the terror plot.
We think that both Mr. Cromedy and the others, number one, never should have been arrested, never should have been convicted by a jury. And we had certainly hoped that on appeal, many, many years ago, their convictions would have been reversed.
He was not included in this compassionate release request, but the attorney who represents him says he's confident Cromedy would be entitled to the same relief.
Late justice is better than no justice.
As for the Williamses and Payne, their 25-year sentence is pulled back to 90 days, giving lawyers and officials time to prepare for their release, according to the judge. Their attorney hoping for more compassionate releases in the future.
Well, the fourth was eventually released. But yeah, Robert Mueller expressed great pride in that operation in the movie, The Newberg Sting, which you could watch on YouTube. I think it's copyright free. It was on HBO for a very long time, but it's now nowhere to be seen in HBO's catalog. So my guess is they surrendered ownership of it. So now if you just Google Newberg Sting on YouTube, it's up there. It's been up there for years. Nobody's taken it down yet. But of course, that sting operation happened under the Obama tenure. And here's Barack Obama expressing his gratitude for Robert Mueller. Bob Mueller was one of the finest directors in the history of the FBI, transforming the Bureau after 9/11 and saving countless lives. But it was his relentless commitment to the rule of law and his unwavering belief in our bedrock values that made him one of the most respected public servants of our time. Michelle and I send our condolences to Bob's family and everyone who knew and admired him. Okay, so let's see what he means by our values. In his effort to transform the FBI, this is the article, writing of his passing, the first goal required, among many other things, repairing lines of communication with political leaders at the White House and in Congress, the electronic eavesdroppers at the NSA, and the spies at the CIA. Those channels had been broken for years. The imperious J. Edgar Hoover, who founded the Bureau and led it from 1924 to 1972, had seen the CIA as his greatest enemy after communism and the civil rights movement, and the rivalry had persisted long after his death. So Robert Mueller patched things up. You may argue really constructed what we now call, in part at least, a deep state. When it came to preserving civil liberties in an age of counterterrorism, Mr. Mueller was largely on his own in an administration that saw itself engaged in a zealous crusade. He had to enforce the provisions of the newly enacted Patriot Act, which vastly expanded the government's surveillance powers, while upholding the Constitution. That was a treacherous tightrope to walk. The FBI rounded up more than 1,200 people in the 8 weeks after 9/11. None were members of al-Qaeda. In the process, it violated some elemental legal protections. The Bureau also sharply increased the use of informants who served as agent provocateurs in Islamic communities. That's what we just showed you a horrible example of. All this was done under the president's command to put the FBI on a military footing in the aftermath of the attacks. When Mr. Mueller finally stepped down in June 2013 to be succeeded by Mr. Comey, the president, meaning Obama, of course, praised him effusively. Under his watch, the FBI joined forces with our intelligence, military, and homeland security professionals to break up al-Qaeda cells, disrupt their activities, and thwart their plots, Mr. Obama said in a 10-minute Rose Garden ceremony. Countless Americans are alive today, and our country is more secure because of the FBI's outstanding work under the leadership of Bob Mueller. In that Newburgh 4 case, 0 lives were ever endangered. It was a completely manufactured plot designed to manufacture consent for more surveillance, more perpetual war, and to scare the hell out of people, to make them more afraid of dark-skinned Muslim men. No lives were saved in that operation. But Robert Mueller was very proud of that operation and remains proud of all of his sting operations, because the Newburgh 4 is a case I am most familiar with because it happened in my hometown. I was coming out of theater rehearsal the night of the sting, the night it all went down, when they went to the home of David Williams and kicked his mother's door in. But this was something that he engineered multiple times over. FBI director defends sting operations. So this is in 2014. So even, 5 years after the fact, a year after he leaves, he didn't reflect and say maybe we've gone too far. No, FBI Director Robert Mueller on Wednesday defended his agency's use of sting operations in snaring terrorism suspects, a technique some have complained amounts to entrapment. The FBI has come under criticism over its repeated use of stings in which agents and informants walk a suspect through a carefully choreographed plot to carry out what they believe to be a real bomb attack, though the explosives are never real. Mueller said undercover operations are necessary to many FBI probes, not just those related to counterterrorism, and he noted that defendants have claimed in a string of cases since September 11th that they were the victims of entrapment. Quote, there has not been yet, to my knowledge, a defendant who has been acquitted in asserting the entrapment defense, Mueller said, crediting substantial oversight such probes have. Yeah, the reason that they are not acquitted is because of the giant post-9/11 psyop that was run on the entire population. If you watch that documentary, the evidence of entrapment is overwhelming. It's absurd. And of course, they always use the excuse that they infiltrated an existing plot, which was not the case in this case. They created it out of thin air. So when Donald Trump said that Robert Mueller preyed on innocent people, he's absolutely right. Now, he's talking, of course, about himself because he's a narcissist. And, I think a lot of the peripheral prosecutions of Russiagate were unfair. I don't think they should have dragged Roger Stone out of his home. I think you could definitely make the case that those were political persecutions. But beyond that, yeah, Robert Mueller's legacy is one of a predatory deep state agency gone wild in a post 9/11 hysteria. And the effects of that are disastrous in perpetuating the conditions for endless war, culminating in the war in Iran. So this is like one more example of like the old Donald Trump, where because he's such a vulgar, classless bastard, he'll say things that are actually truer than George Bush and Barack Obama. like, you know, as much as that plays pretty badly now, because look, people are not into the whole, you know, I'm glad he's dead act now that, you know, it comes with everything else. Like, if you're going to not go to war with Iran, you control like that. But if you're going to go to war with Iran, it falls flat. But as a standalone statement, this is just one of those examples of how he actually gets closer to the truth than a lot of the more respected figures in our media space and in our political space. Because, yeah, Robert Mueller was definitely a predator. There's no question about it. Robert Mueller was not a patriot. He was a predator. He violated the rights and destroyed people. Those guys, those Newburgh guys, man, that guy, we interviewed David Williams when he got out of jail. He went to jail. His daughter was 6 years old. She's 22 now. Didn't get to see her grow up for nothing, because the FBI decided, hey, you know what? Let's go frame some poor black people to manufacture consent for a war on terror. So, yeah, no, Robert Mueller was not a great man and was not a patriot and will not be missed. I'm not going to say I'm glad he's dead because, to me, it just doesn't make sense to wish that on an 81-year-old who's out of public life. But no, definitely not someone I will be missing very much.
Robert, we hardly knew you.
Yeah.
Robert Mueller. The world is a little colder today without Robert Mueller in it. I've said this before. One of the most remarkable spectacles in my life regarding politics has been to watch people who think of themselves as left embrace the intelligence services as being on their side. When I see a fucking criminal like John Brennan being trotted around on the politics shows to offer his opinion like he's some kind of upstanding citizen, when he wrote those op-eds and all the libs creamed their jeans over that, my head was going to explode. Like, this guy should be in jail. He spied on senators who were voting on investigating the CIA's torture dungeons in Iraq. He perjured himself in front of Congress. He should be in prison. And that's the case with a lot of people that we are told to celebrate, like Robert Mueller. If you are responsible for that kind of false prosecution, you should be prosecuted. You should be in prison. This whole narrative, this whole complex relies very much on a complicit media that builds this kind of mythology, that doesn't challenge a Barack Obama when he says something like that actually reinforces it. This is where Trump and his crew have been able to get a lot of traction attacking the media because they deserve it. The thing that a lot of people miss is they don't actually want to change that. They just want to invert it. They just want it to work the same exact way, but more in their favor. Less pumping up people like Mueller, more pumping up people like Marco Rubio. You look at DeKoopel's little paean to Marco Rubio. That's what they want. That's what they want. Usually they won't gas up a figure like Marco Rubio that way. But hey, Robert Mueller's just as bad, and they'll gas him up. They just want to shift which wing of the oligarchy gets filleted in the media. That's really their only concern. The idea of having a fair media that just reports, that's not on the menu. You're not going to get that unless you actually restore some kind of democracy to America, which you certainly don't have. There is no consideration of the public interest among public servants. That's what you have to understand. Anything they say they want to fix, they don't want to fix it. They want to fix it in the, criminal sense. They want to rig it in their favor. They don't actually want to fix the problem. But that is the only reason that you have people running around taking seriously the idea that Robert Mueller is to be mourned rather than to be despised. That's the only reason you have a guy like John Brennan being paraded around on TV as if he's like some kind of a sage who needs to be listened to, because he was mean to Donald Trump. So they trot him around like he's one of the good guys when he's one of the worst that has ever held that office, and that is saying something.
Yeah. So I just wanted to do that story because I remember that case so well, and that was really a red pill for me because, I was at that point, I was never a registered Democrat at that point, but I was, functioned as a Democrat. I was a two-time Obama voter, and to see that film, which they screened for free in Newburgh, right before, a private screening before it premiered, or no, it was after it premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival where I saw it because a friend of mine worked on it. To see that and just to see the ruthlessness of the government, the just absolute evil of the government, to go into a community that's already just horribly neglected by the state. You drive around Newburgh, the poverty, the immiseration, the neglect, the just absolute lack of concern for the well-being of the people. And then on top of that, you're going to send the feds in to create more problems and just like proactively ruin the lives of these four guys by setting up a trial, as if this town hasn't been hurt enough by its own government, hasn't been left for dead enough. Now you're actually going to go in and proactively make it worse. Just really, really horrible, dark stuff. And that is a big part of the legacy of Robert Mueller, which he was very proud of even after he stepped down. He said, that was something that we really felt we had to do. So that's all we got to say about him. All right. Let's see. Jake, you want to put the scroll up?
Oh, wait. I've got a sound drop just for these occasions.
Yeah. I know where you're going with that.
Where's that sound? You know where I'm going.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Gonna burn in hell.
I knew that one. All right, everybody. Thanks, everybody, very much for being here tonight. If you like what we do and you want to help us do more of it, the best way to do so is to become a member at dudissidents.com/Patreon//Substack or /locals. Sure. Membership starts at just $5 a month. If you would like to sign up, you can click any one of the links there, dudissidents.com/Patreon, Substack, or Locals. Perks include your name up in lights on the show scroll. You also get call-in access to all of our post-show Q&As, which happen exclusively on Rumble every Sunday night. Tonight is Sunday, so we will be going over for a Q&A after the conclusion of the show this evening. You also get monthly film clubs with Right Brain TV. We're looking at screening a film about Cambodia this month, which will happen sometime over the next week. Haven't nailed down a date yet, but we should have a date nailed down by Tuesday's show, so we will announce that, so keep an eye out for that. That should be a great time. You also get post-game live streams and bonus Q&As as well, all for just $5 a month, plus ad-free live stream replays emailed to you the day after they air publicly. So if you want to watch something back without commercial interruption, that is how you get access to those ad-free replays. Like I said, it's just $5 a month. We thank you all very much for your support. You are the backbone of the show. All right. ED24007 says, remember when Ben Shapiro said Israel doesn't need America's help and can defend itself? Why are they asking the world to help them? Yeah, good question. Thanks for making me laugh through the misery, says Carl Knight. Thank you, Carl. Appreciate that very much. Web Angel PB, you guys should listen to Richie Medhurst's take that the U.S. wants to blow all the oil, so we'll be the only ones with liquefied natural gas. He posits that's why gold and silver are down. Very interesting take. That does sound like an interesting case. I will take a look. Thank you for that. Eric Rousseau says, when did Hassan Piker stop taking steroids, or is he on AZT now? Jesus. Yeah, he does look a little thin. Does look a little more gaunt in that video than usual. What Democracy says, nice to bring aid without abduction by IOF. Yeah, exactly. For a change, you can actually get the aid in. That's kind of uplifting, right? Peter Jackson 364 Medhurst take the real reason for conflict is U.S. gain liquefied natural gas market dominance by creating a situation where Qatari gas is taken out. Countries need to buy gas from the U.S. Sounds similar to what Web Angel Pete was saying. Thank you for that. Excuse me. I'm Reza777. Became a member on YouTube. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Krasnaya Armada, thanks for the $5. I'm here for the anti-war rants. Thank you for that. Well, we got those aplenty. David Santucci, if socialism doesn't work, why does the U.S. try so hard to destroy it? Good question. Benjamin Stieber.
To liberate the people, Tommy.
For freedom, that's right. Because we're very
freedom.
nice. Michael, we're bigger than U.S. Steel. Username, Troy shouldn't have practiced communism or would still be around. Gator Peach says, I don't have much. I sometimes wonder why I continue to fight. Just reaction, I guess. Thank you for being the adults in the room. Do dissidents. Thank you both. Appreciate that, Gator Pete.
Is
Very
that
much.
us? I don't think we've ever been described that way.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever been described that way.
I mean, have we ever done a show without at least 4 dick jokes?
Yeah, right, exactly. Mexican President AMLO reminded Mexicans in a tweet that Cuba's future is Mexico's future, so it's extremely important to support them in their fight. Thank you, Burning the World. Andy Gardner, don't boo, vote. Black John McCain. Username, Troy shouldn't have... Oh, what happened there? Double. Eric Rousseau, was that Ozempic Santa? Ha, good one. Ravid Laz, you know what Elon's code name was in the White House? Punching bag. That's right. Scott Bessent. Well, you used to fight him, right? Blue MAGA, thanks for the $50. Let's have a cowbell for Blue MAGA over there. Russell, are you there? Did Russell freeze? Did Russell's data run out? I deleted my OnlyFans account, so I finally have more to spend on the essentials like Do Dissidents. Well, thank you, Blue MAGA. In all seriousness, best wishes to Keaton and rest in peace, Mama Weiss. You guys are the best. All right, hang on a second. Russell is calling me now. His data may have run up. I'm going to take a 2-minute break. I'll be right back. Let's see if Russell's thing works. If not, that's why we did the show the way we did. So Russell's here. Interesting. All right. Well, looks like I might be doing the rest of the show myself. Looks like we got one more segment to do. And it looks like I could do that one myself. So let's see. Let's see. All right. Let's see if you can make it. Let's see if you can make it in. Here he is. You there? Doesn't look good. Don't look good. Doesn't look good. Oh, there. Oh, you there? You there? Can you hear me? Yeah, see, this is what we were looking at before.
Boy.
You there? Now I hear you. I hear you. But you're coming in pretty choppy. This is Keaton. Just did a bunch of cocaine. Russell. All right, let me read some of these. I don't understand why so-called journalists that made a name debunking Russiagate never mentioned Mossad, Bibi, Trump collusion in 2016, especially now since Robert Mueller died and Trump is fighting Israel's war. Yeah, no, there was all that evidence. The Nation did a big report on there, but, Rachel Maddow didn't want to touch it. Well, Rachel Maddow doesn't want to talk about Israel's role in the war. She did that big segment where she went on, blaming basically every other country but Israel. She just would not go there. So yeah, that's how that worked. All right, let's see what we got over here. Brad Gilbert, no thanks for my attention to that matter. F you. Oh yeah, we didn't get any thank you for your attention to this matter when he expressed glee at the passing of Robert Mueller. That's true. We didn't get one of those sign-offs. Freddie X says, we want more Afro Man chatters. Join me in demanding the full segment. By the way, if we're already on Rumble, does this added wallet feature benefit you guys more? Yeah, so if you sign up through Rumble Wallet, you can Rumble rant us right through there. And yeah, it is a cooler way to chat in that way. Definitely. There's less like fees and stuff. So it's a more direct tipping platform through Rumble. So yeah, and it's super easy. It's super easy. You send a Rumble rant the exact way you would, except when you go to send it, rather than send USD, you could just send it in the Rumble wallet currency of your choosing there. Rockfin used to have something like that, and then we stopped using Rockfin because it wasn't a very user-friendly platform. Rumble is much more user-friendly. But as I understand, it kind of works similar to the way that used to work. I don't even know if they're up and running. 0744 Pete says Russ has 6 fingers. Good one. Yo, shush. Mueller redacted the Mossad Bibi Trump collusion to protect Israel. The Epstein cover-up was to protect Israel. It's not a right wing versus left wing. It's both wings protecting Israel. Okay, yeah. Russell said that's not gonna work. Okay, all right, no problem. All right. Well, I could do the Tucker segment on my own. That's fine. Russell already told me what his take was going to be, so I could just, I can cover his take on it. You there?
Oh, never mind.
Oh, you there? You're back? What happened?
I went over to the hotel. I didn't realize it was still on the iPhone. It was still connected to that.
Oh,
now
okay.
Seems to be going okay.
All right.
Well, it comes and it goes, man. Like sometimes it's fine.
All right. Well, let's try and make it work then. All right. So do you want to do your segment now then?
Well, now I got to load everything back
because you got to load
because
it
I
in.
crashed out.
Oh, that's right. Because it crashed out. That's crashed out.
I mean, if you vamp, I can do it. But if you want to just go ahead with your piece, that's fine. Whatever you want to do.
I'll do this here. We may as well try and get yours in the can while the internet's good. Let's see.
All right. So I'll load it in.
Yeah. Bravo, you two. Never stop. Too fucking good. And thanks, Jake. Thank you, T-Bone. Appreciate that. Appreciate that encouragement, T-Bone. Very much. What do we got here? EO Shush says, is it the bigotry of low expectations for right-wingers if they support every war and a day before, say, America went downhill when we stopped lynching black people and slightly against one war? They are a hero. Yeah, well, I mean, bigotry of low expectations. Interesting. I don't even consider it to be, an overall value judgment on them as so much as like, hey, a voice against the war is a voice against the war. But if you look at, what you're starting to see now, and it's true, and you got people like, Bot, you're really touting this, that a lot of Republicans are now just overwhelmingly for the war. Like the last poll had like 86% supporting the Iran strikes. So a lot of them have just kind of fallen in line. It's the independents that are, and obviously the Democrats, but the independents are just like overwhelmingly opposed, like 20-something% approval for the war in Iran amongst independents. So that's where you're really seeing the numbers take a dive. And yeah, his poll numbers just get worse and worse and worse for very obvious reasons. There's no real mystery regarding that. Like it's pretty obvious why these numbers are as bad as they are. Kenman says 47 years. That's how long Mark Levin has been trying and failing to get his wife to orgasm with his micro penis. Yeah, that was a big feud as well. Maximum distractions. I'm urging people to vote Democratic because it's vitally important that the next simpering servants of the empire wear blue ties. Okay. All right, I'm going to do this read again because we had a little glitch back here. So I'm just going to do this just to make sure. But this is another Rumble wallet read here, folks. So, hey, here's a little scoop that many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons why we're using Rumble, because they made a way to super chat creators so we get paid immediately and without any fees. YouTube and Twitch take up to 50% fees when you tip creators. This method takes none. That's right. The platform takes 0 fees, and we keep nearly 100% of what you send us. You can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stablecoins. The tip will show up directly on the Rumble chat, which, of course, we read every single one of them. So all you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and send the tips to your favorite creators. You can go to wallet.rumble.com or you can download the app directly from the app stores. What an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. Shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. So once again, that's wallet.rumble.com. You can scan the QR code there. Another way to support us. It's super easy. You send it just like you would any other Rumble rant, but when you sign up for Rumble Wallet, there's an option to pay with your Rumble Wallet currency. So that's wallet.rumble.com. Okay. All right. What do we got over here? We got maximum distraction. Good. You're good? Okay. Urging people to vote Democratic because it's vitally important. Oh, I see. I got that one already. All righty. All right. Let's go for it.
Okay. So there has been a great effort on the part of Israel to suppress real information about how hard they're getting hit. Once they were no longer able to do that, they kind of flipped the script to look how terrible this is. But here's an example of why they had to flip the script, because they keep getting hit with missiles live while sympathetic outlets are covering them. So here are missiles landing in Tel Aviv on CNN in real time.
Principally or perhaps entirely ballistic missiles, which are the fastest by far and the most dangerous. And now what we're seeing in addition to those intercepts is we're seeing fragments falling to the ground. It's like a deadly fireworks display over Tel Aviv. Goodness, there was an impact just to the left of us here.
And you're talking about Tel Aviv, Jim. We are looking at pictures right now. Oh, we are looking at pictures of Tel Aviv, what you're describing.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, God. Okay, guys, we got to get off the
Dana
roof.
Bash is going to plot.
Right next to us here.
Please do, Jim. Please do.
They're coming down. One just about. We got to go inside.
Jim, please take cover.
Yep. So a lot of those missiles getting through, apparently. Now, there's no way to say if what this fellow says is accurate. But this man, directly from location in Tel Aviv, said they have gotten the most devastating attack in their country, more than 16,500 soldiers killed by Iranian strike.
Killing our people in the dark. 16,500 murdered.
Well, you should go talk to the people of Gaza about that. They might be able to talk you through what that experience is like. And this is what really has freaked out a lot of people who, I don't know, for whatever reason, seem to believe that Donald Trump had wiped out Iranian capability. Dramatic footage shows moments when an Iranian missile directly impacts in Dimona, home to its nuclear facility. It's meaning Israel's nuclear facility. Yeah, let's see that again. Wow. Today, Israelis in Arad had zero idea of an incoming Iranian missile. All radars and early warning systems are destroyed. This footage is pretty remarkable. She got up, though. She was fine. Fine, maybe a little in shock there. So here is Fox News talking about the fact that the vaunted Iron Dome doesn't seem to be doming anymore.
Israeli air defenses and came down in the southern Israeli town of Dimona, and people are injured. Now, Dimona is in the southern desert there, sort of near the tip of the Dead Sea and very near the Natanz Nuclear Research Center. No word that anything nuclear was hit, but we do have word that a lot of people are injured, as many as 40 injuries. That includes a 10 or 12-year-old boy who has shrapnel injuries and is in severe condition. Most of the injuries are light. They do count people who get injured running to the shelters among the injuries when you have a missile.
George Galloway, nobody, not Nasser, not Saddam, nobody has ever paid back Israel's crimes like Iran is doing every day and every night. No king, no emir, nobody. So what's going on? What's going on? Well, this is the nature of asymmetric warfare, right? By its nature, you're the smaller, overpowered force. What you have in your advantage is with these big imperial armies, they tend to be unwieldy and vulnerable to gumming up their works. They tend to have a lot of vulnerabilities because their logistics are so complex. And one of their vulnerabilities is also their equipment tends to be very expensive. So if you can find very cheap ways to destroy very expensive equipment, as Iran has with its drone attacks, that's going to start to put a real strain on the ability of the other side to continue to manufacture their weapons. So somebody put together an animation here that's a pretty good explanation of the asymmetry in cost between the Iron Dome, the Patriot missiles, and what Iran is doing.
$100,000 gone. A brand new Lamborghini just boom, gone in the sky to stop a drone that cost $20,000.
I'm the Iron Dome, basically the most expensive goalkeeper in history. Deployed in 2011, and since then, I've stopped over 5,000 rockets and missiles. 5,000 saves, 90% success rate, which means 5,000 Lamborghini exploding in the sky.
April 14, 2024, 350 missiles fired at Israel in one night. I stopped 99% of them.
The bill? $1.35 billion!
That's enough to buy every Argentinian and French player who played in the 2022 World Cup final. Now for the bigger threats like the ballistic missiles, I call in my big brother, the Patriot. He costs $3 million per shot. That's 2,000 iPhones to basically destroy a cheap drone worth 13 iPhones. Here is a fact most people do not know. The United States has spent over $3 billion funding the Iron Dome since 2011. That is more than the GDP of Greenland.
30 Lamborghinis.
2,000 iPhones per missile intercepted.
$3 billion from the U.S. And now, a $2 can of Coke do the same job. Welcome to modern war.
Follow War 2. Every day, a new weapon, a new story.
So the Iranians have had, as many have pointed out, 20 years to plan for this. And they're executing a strategy, and it seems to be working. You can't just throw together a Patriot missile in a couple days. Aside from the expense, you have to manufacture all these things. And this came at a moment in our wisdom, because this was a war of choice. Iran didn't start it. When, by all accounts, our supplies are greatly depleted by having been supplying the Ukrainian army for several years before this. But here's the Israel Foreign Ministry. The Iranian regime devastated Arad and Dimona by deliberately striking civilians with missiles. Oh, you don't say. Over 100 people were injured, including children. A blatant war crime, pure terrorism. Now, to be clear, of course, no decent person on earth supports children being caught up in a war zone, or civilians for that matter. However, given what Israel has done to the population of Gaza, I'm sure I don't have to explain why this plea for sympathy is falling flat for a lot of people.
Well, they're telling on themselves. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Well, so you've committed war crimes then, right?
So you've committed war crimes then.
Right.
Exactly.
You're admitting it. No. This is war. Things happen. Okay, well, so things happen.
Right. So then
okay, well then it's not a war crime then, right? Hen Mazig. Update. A 10-year-old boy is in moderate condition among the 20 people injured in Dimona following the latest missile attack by the Iranian regime. Tehran regime is deliberately targeting civilians, including children. You notice how they never say the Israeli regime? You'll never see that in the media. The Israeli regime. Is Israel not a regime? Like what is that? A legitimate government that should be recognized? It's not a regime. Regime is these are the bad guys. This is to tell you, these are the bad guys when they say regime. Glenn Greenwald, the fucking audacity these people have. They spend years vaporizing innocent people that they regard as subhuman, incinerating and starving entire families, starting wars, and then think the world will see them as pity-inducing victims the minute anyone fights back. Boom. That's why he's one of the best. That's why he's Glenn Greenwald, and we're due dissidents right there.
That's right.
Sadiq Rafi Sadiq. When Gaza was being bombed for months, many people in Israel were mocking the suffering. Yes, they were, I'm sure. All of our viewers have seen some of those videos. No outrage then. Now Iran hits back hard and suddenly they play victim. Now they are facing what Gaza has been facing. If civilian lives matter, they must matter everywhere, not just when Israel is hit. Yeah, it seems fair, but I don't think they're going to play by those rules because they're the master race, don't you know?
Yeah. No, what I hope is for the 10-year-old who was injured, I hope that kid obviously recovers fully from his injury. And then when he turns 18 and is old enough to think about what happened to him, he can realize that this sick warmongering society he was born into, set him up for this, and he'll leave. That's what he should do.
That would be a happy ending.
That would be a happy ending, of course.
Furkan Gazukara. Fox News is absolutely panicking. They are crying on air about how the American public is waking up and supporting the resistance. They call it anti-Americanism, but the truth is people are just sick of the U.S. and Israel destroying the Middle East. Yeah, so here's dumb as a bag of hammers host Sean Hannity lamenting the fact that people seem to be rooting for the other side.
Disturbing that a growing segment of the far left appears to be almost rooting for Hamas, Hezbollah, the Iranian regime, and other forces fundamentally opposed to the U.S. and our allies. This seems to reflect a corrosive strain of anti-Americanism dressed up in post-colonial theory that risks blinding us to the moral realities of our world and the nature of our adversaries. Here with reaction.
The nature of our adversaries. It's just hard not to get enraged when you hear these historically illiterate tropes being foisted on morons and people who just don't know any better. Look, we showed good boomers tonight with Code Pink on the plane going to Cuba. The reason that statistically you'll see more boomers are pro-Israel than others, more boomers are pro almost everything bad than others, is because they grew up in a time when certain things could be relied on that can no longer be relied on, and they just don't get it. To them, the media is still Walter Cronkite, right? Like it's still reliable. It's still something they can get meaningful information from. America's still the land of opportunity. Like they just, I mean, I've talked to some of them who have these views. They just don't get it when you try to explain to them things are not what they were. And, hey, with Gen X, it makes total sense to me. My own generation, they tend to go 50-50. Like half of them are more like boomers and half of them are more like millennials. Psychologically, like the way that they understand the world, they tend to kind of split down the middle. I know a lot of people my age who are just like that, but there's more in that cohort who aren't, because there are more who got a taste of the bad side of capitalism. That's the thing. They experienced such a good capitalism, and they received so much Cold War brainwashing, even from their counterculture figures fed them a lot of that. That's the stuff that Michael Parenti got into. That's the stuff Caleb Maupin gets into a lot, about how the intelligence services used these counterculture figures to promote the idea that you can be cool and counterculture and also be anti-communist, right? Like those, they fuse those things together. But here's Max, kind of laying out in the starkest terms possible, not in direct response to this, but in another interview, why people are not feeling it for Israel and its suffering, why people are not sympathetic.
Whipped up into a genocidal bloodlust. If you look at, like, there's an Israeli Telegram account called Dead Terrorists. It has 110,000 followers, and all it is pictures of dead Palestinians, and people follow it so they can celebrate seeing video of their families crying. It has close-up images of their wounds. It's the most sick thing I've ever seen. Israeli TikTok videos that are blowing up in Israel right now show Israelis dressed up like in racist Arab blackface costumes, including with their kids, mocking people in Gaza for not having electricity. What they want is revenge. They want to end the Gaza Strip and turn it into a stadium, as one of their former ministers, Ayelet Shaked, said.
Oh, there you go. That might be why nobody's crying any tears for the Israelis. Ethan Levins. Every major Israeli politician is in Dimona or Arad tonight after the strikes. Netanyahu is not there. He didn't address the country and didn't release a video for his people. He did subsequent to this. He didn't go there, as far as I know. Instead, his office issued a statement. Well, this might be why he didn't run right over there. This is what happened when Ben Gvir showed up there. There are terror attacks. You are a Judeo-Nazi. You only sow death. You only sow death. You've got no business being here. Get out of my town. Why do you involve politics? You shouldn't be here. You're responsible for all the death. You're responsible for all the death. Get the hell out of our town, Judeo-Nazi. Judeo-Nazi. Nazi, go home. Go away from here. Yeah, that might be why Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't eager to show his face among these people. Yeah, let me help for anyone who doesn't understand why people might be rooting for Iran in this war. It was a very common sight amongst people with repressive governments that didn't represent them, and it still is to this day, to greet people who overthrow their governments as liberators. That's not unusual. What this should tell you is that the American people no longer see their government as their government. They see it as an occupying force that is suppressing and abusing them, that they want overthrown. That's what that is. It's not, this is not historically unique for a population to celebrate an enemy of the government in a war. That means that people hate their government that much that they want to see the government beaten, and they can't do it. So they're prepared to celebrate an outside force giving that government a kind of a lesson that they're not in a position to do. That's what's happening. The lesson of this is the American people have probably never been so alienated from their government as they are now. I don't know that there's any other time in history that you could have had that phenomena where Americans want to see the other side win in a war. But I think that's a majority, the real MAGA chuds accepted. But I think the majority of the American population is rooting for Iran to win in this war. And what does that tell you? A society where the people are that disconnected from their representation, their political representation, that's a society hurtling towards civil war. Like, it's eventually there's going to be a spark. There's going to be some ICE agent and local police who get in a shootout. Something's going to happen that sparks Not like 19th century civil war, but low grade civil war where you have municipalities refusing to cooperate with the federal government. Like once that snowball starts rolling, you're going to start to get these showdowns between local and federal power, questions of the legitimacy of the government. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. You couldn't find something more illustrative of the fact that Americans no longer believe their government represents them. Then, I mean, that is the most extreme example of a population that wants its government gone, man. When you're rooting for the other side in a war, you've lost all connection to the people who are supposed to represent you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a majority of people are rooting for the other side in the war. I think a majority of people don't see this as our fight. They see this as Israel's fight. They see this as none of our business. And I think people are, according to the polls, convinced that this was done on behalf of Israel. I don't think if you polled a majority of people, or if you polled, a group of people, and said how many of you are rooting for Iran, I don't think you would get majority support saying they're rooting for Iran. I think that's a similar kind of question to saying, are you rooting for
ballot
Iraq?
Secret ballot?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that is similar to saying, are you rooting for Iraq in the Iraq War, which was the accusation that you were rooting for the enemy. I don't think most people are. I think most people see this as not our fight, and I think people are really outraged that this government, our government, which is supposed to represent us, was led into this by the Israeli government. That's where I think most people are at. I don't think most people think about it very much beyond whether or not it's our fight. And, I think to root for victory for either side, I mean, what does that mean? You're talking about a world war, right? If Donald Trump declares a victory and comes home, that would be the best possible outcome in this war right now. For him to be just say, okay, we won, we're coming back. Now, of course, the price of that is leaving Israel in the lurch, which would be great if we just said, hey, you're on your own now. Because, of course, Iran is going to come for Israel. That's why we can't get these ceasefire talks going, right? Because the barrier to that is, well, they have said we're not interested in a ceasefire because you've already come this far, so now we're going to settle this now. But to see this through to the point where either side could legitimately declare victory over the other side, the humanitarian toll of that is catastrophic around the world. That's why this war should not have happened. So,
and that's
I personally myself can't get to a point where I say I'm rooting for Iran. What I'm rooting for is for this government to withdraw. Now, we could declare victory. The Iranians could declare victory. However that looks is subjective, because I think ultimately what's going to happen at that point is Iran goes after Israel. I don't care about that. You know why? Because I'm not a fucking Israeli. And Americans don't care about that. This is the conflict. This is what's going on in the minds of people. We're being told we have to engage Iran because Iran has it in for Israel. Meanwhile, Iran did not attack Israel. Iran was negotiating with the United States and Israel, and we jumped the gun. The question now is, how do people process the reality that what's keeping us doubling and tripling down on this war is our concern for Israel? That's what people, I think, are really outraged about, is why are we in this past the point of no return because we're afraid of Israel getting counterfire. That's what I think. If you polled people, I think that's where most Americans are at.
Well, I think something else that is an X factor, and it's a nuance that a lot of people are, it's very difficult for people to imagine the world really turning on America.
Right.
But when you present people with a threat to their survival, they're going to go into survival mode. If Donald Trump follows through on what he's claiming, if he hits their energy and they hit back, the world may come together and decide they need to do something about America because America has become such an existential threat to their survival that their interests are no longer in supporting the United States. That this 400-pound gorilla needs to be taken down for the future of civilization.
Well, the Europeans are getting pushed to that point now too, right?
They're getting there.
It's not.
They're getting there. Now you have a worldwide depression and energy crisis.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, man, that could happen.
That's what I mean, and that's what this war turns into. That's what this war turns into, unless it stops. So to me, the question of victory or defeat is a question that better be settled politically, and which means it's not really settled at all, right? Because that allows both sides to claim victory, right? It either is settled that way, or it's a world war, or it's a world war. And nobody wants to live in a world war. You don't win World War III. You know who said that? A woman named Tulsi Gabbard. A woman named Tulsi Gabbard once upon a time, right? No one wins a nuclear war. There is no winning a nuclear war. And if World War III is a nuclear war, that means there is no victory, right? So that's what I mean by like to say you're rooting for a side. Okay, so what you're rooting is for Armageddon. Like if you're rooting for a side, you're rooting for Armageddon because the only way the war is definitively settled in one way or another is through an extinction level military exchange. That's what this balloons into. If both sides double and triple down to the point where it becomes that, then that's really what you're rooting for. So it's easy to say on the internet that you're rooting for this, you're rooting for that. What you're rooting for is the destruction of the human race, or you're rooting for an off-ramp where both sides get to spin it like they won.
I would consider an American withdrawal an Iranian victory.
Okay, but
that's what I mean. But people are.
But Donald Trump is going to say that's an American victory, right? So
I mean, he's gonna say that, but nobody else will.
Right. Well,
like America went in there with all of its might. They held the Strait of Hormuz, and you wound up having to go home. Yes, that would be an Iranian victory by most people's definitions.
Sure,
but part of the reason that's important is Cuba and Venezuela and every other fucking country that's next in line if Iran falls.
Well, yeah, sure, absolutely, and I think obviously that would be a victory for Iran. And once again, this is, I think, if you were to poll people, this is the problem. I mean, not if you were to poll people. We have polled people. We know this is true. We know for a fact this is true, that a majority of people see this as Israel's war. And now they see us as being in too deep because of Israel, right? In other words, we can't pull out now because if we pull out now, then they're just going to wipe Israel off the map. And why should we care about that? We shouldn't care about that. But of course, it's basically an occupied government, right? Yeah. And so we have to care about that for some reason, right? And that's what people have, I think, a huge problem with. And that's why you're seeing the numbers look the way they do. But yeah, I mean, if we pull out now, of course, that's a victory for Iran. Trump can't spin it that way. Why? Because of Israel. That's the issue, right? Like, how's he going to spin it that way? If Israel gets taken out, then of course he doesn't get to claim victory anymore, right? Because our fates are so tied. If he could make that break, then there'd be some space for him to actually, as an American president, do what's in the best interest of America. But of course, that's not possible.
Yeah,
that's not possible, and that's why people are enraged. That's why a lot of MAGA people, true America First people, feel so screwed over by this, and they're absolutely right to feel that way. All right, let's take some Rumble rants here. Brad Gilbert, gold and silver are down because hoarding nations now need to spend it to keep their governments afloat while their oil reserves burn. All part of the plan. Thank you, Brad Gilbert.
See, I had some people tell me when I sold gold, this is not the time you sell precious metals. Fuck it. Anything that goes up to that point that fast, it's the time to sell it. Buy it back later, man.
Right. Phileas Fob, when those of Star Wars names a military alliance with those of the Game of Thrones names team up, the world shudders. Thank you. Brad Gilbert. Gold and silver are down because hoarding nations now need to spend it to keep their governments afloat while their oil reserves burn. All part of the plan. Oh, yeah. Was that copied over twice? Okay. Yeah. Oh, because that's a YouTube one. CNN said Trump have 100% support. Yeah, among MAGA Republicans. And he repeated that as if that was like actual 100% support. Pretty funny stuff. Goo81, you know the Hasbara is failing when you say, oh my God, Iran killed 16,500 genocidal war criminal soldiers. Vienticus Prime, yeah, would they blow up in Israel? PDF brothels, good one. Goo81, 80% of Israelis support a genocide in Greater Israel Project. Don't feel sorry, it's called Karma. Fable 42, RE the missile footage. Clearly, the noble Iranians are bringing freedom to the terrorist Israeli regime, giving people a chance to rise up to take back their country. They have your backs. Yeah, exactly. You could view it that way, too, can't you? Why are we here? Trump wins the GOP primary. Epstein contacts Bibi and lets him know he has blackmail on Trump. Bibi tells Adelson support campaign, Mossad leaks, and pulls every lever they have in 2016. Indeed. DD, thank you for your work and witness. This is the Suez moment for the U.S. The arrogance of empire echoes through history. That is Reverend Edmund Bolella on YouTube. Sorry, I didn't copy your name over, but I got that in the background. Vienticus Prime, maybe Iran should drop leaflets telling Israelis locations that will be safe. Yeah, there you go. You are the Sebulus of my nightmare. Thank you, Peter Monahan. Appreciate that. Vientica says, meanwhile, the New York Post put out an article about the dangers of anime and hentai. The age attestation regime is moving forward even quicker. They got to get it done before leaving Iran.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Maybe. I mean, it seems like an article they'd write.
Oh, yeah. No. Oh, yeah. Oh, it absolutely sounds like something they'd write. But, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Jake, can you do me a favor and just clear out those? I think we're at.
How much you want to bet the person who wrote the article has a hard drive full of hentai?
Yeah, exactly. Jake, can you just clear out the stuff from, I guess, Peter Monahan and above, and then we'll get to the rest right after this one. All right, folks, we got one more segment on the night here. So Tucker Carlson did an interview with the editor-in-chief of The Economist. She's one of those three named people. I forget her entire name. It'll come up. But here she goes back and forth with him on a couple different topics that we're going to get into. First, this is just a kind of interesting piece of framing that he calls her out on. She says, clearly you and I agree. We've both been critical of the Israeli government. They are just so desperate. It's amazing to see the rest of the press so desperate to rein in Tucker Carlson. It seems like the whole point of this interview was for her to kind of like pull him back into sort of, you know, mainstream Western hegemonic thinking here. So here we go.
You and I agree. We have both been critical of the Israeli government. I just want to kind of clarify terms a bit here.
Well, I've really been critical of the Israeli government.
I've been plenty critical of the Israeli government. I've told you at the beginning that we were against this war.
What do you think of Gaza?
What do I think of Gaza?
Yeah.
I think the war in Gaza, to start with, was a perfectly reasonable response in response to the horrors of October 7th. I think now the places, I mean, I've been there. Have you been to Gaza? I've been to Gaza since the war started.
They would not
it's
let
catastrophic.
me into Gaza. Trust me, very few journalists get into Gaza.
Yeah, no, I went with the IDF. It's the only way that you can go in, but nonetheless you go in and you see a flattened place. I think it is a disaster for the future of Israel, a disaster for the Palestinian people, a horror, 70,000 people dead.
Why would you describe it first as a disaster for the future of Israel? You've got tens of thousands of civilians murdered, but it's foremost a disaster for the future of Israel? No, it's foremost a disaster for the families of the dead kids.
Absolutely. I made 3 points.
Because everybody sucks up to Israel in this way that suggests they're afraid. And everyone is afraid, and you know that. Everyone's like, the real problem is calling people anti-Semites allows real anti-Semites to flourish. It's like, no, actually, the real problem with calling people anti-Semites who aren't is accusing the innocent of a crime they didn't commit. And the real crime in Gaza is killing people who did nothing wrong. So those are the real problems, I would say. But no one can say it because you have to be like, oh, no, but really, October 7th
I don't know what you're talking about, Gaza. We're having a...
Everyone watching this knows what I'm talking about.
Everybody does know what he's talking about. He's exactly right. And that was a very, very good catch to call out. She first first thing out of her mouth. Have you been to Gaza? Well, yeah, it's a disaster for Israel. Well, oh, really? That's interesting. Interesting that your mind goes first to there. And he's exactly right. He's exactly right that everybody feels a need to cover their ass by framing everything in terms of the well-being of Israel. So a genocide in Gaza, a flattening of Gaza, is a disaster first for who?
For
For
horror,
Israel.
70,000 people dead.
Why would you describe it first as a disaster for the future of Israel? You've got tens of thousands of civilians murdered, but it's foremost a disaster for the future
No, I
of
didn't
Israel.
say
No, it's
foremost.
foremost a disaster for the families of the
Well, you kind of did say foremost because that was the first thing out of your mouth. So we can kind of assume that, yeah, that is kind of foremost what you mean. And to get an idea of who this person is here, at Aspen, Economist editor-in-chief Zanny Minton Beddoes, whatever that, I don't know how you say that last name, laid out her vision for the day after October 7th. Israel security first and foremost, followed by some kind of autonomy for Palestinians.
Israeli security first and foremost. And October 7th was understandably, of course, an absolute sort of psyche-shaking event. I mean, I lived here in 9/11, and just remember how 9/11 changed this country. And this was just so much more horrific than in scale relative to the population. So I totally understand why the country feels the way it does. But I think increasingly there is a view within Israel that there has to be a path forward, that it has first and foremost Israeli security, but then has some kind of framework towards something that is autonomous. Don't call it two-state, but call it something that allows not the PA, but some kind of less corrupt, more effective Palestinian authority to have some form of self-government.
Okay, so not even two-state. So not even two-state. That's where she's coming from. Now, allow them to do some kind of self-government. Maybe there should be some framework at some point in the future for some sort of self-governance in Palestine. I mean, not the PA, of course, but, maybe
a chapter of the Kiwanis Club.
Yeah, right, exactly. Just
Shriners.
All right, so that's where she's coming from. So then she gets into this. Now, this I thought was really fascinating because even before I was as versed in this issue as I am now, and I do not claim expertise on this now, but I think most of us are a lot more versed in the Israel-Palestine conflict now than we were 2.5 years ago. Not all of us, to be clear, in this space. There are OGs of this space who have been experts on this issue long before October 7th. But I think most of us are a lot more versed now than we were then. But even before I was as versed as I am now, the question always, even before I really paid the focus to this issue that I should have been paying my whole life, the question of Israel's right to exist always struck me as very sneaky and weird when people would frame it that way, precisely because that question is never asked of any other state in any other context, right? You never get asked the question, well, does China have the right to exist? Does America have the right to exist? Does Venezuela have the right? Never. Always this question. Whenever there's a flare-up in violence, you're always interrogated as to your assertion that Israel has the right to exist. So it was really fascinating, at least for me, and I think for a lot of people, which is why this one is viral as it did, to see Tucker sort of navigate this question the way he does.
Are critical of the government of Israel. Do you believe in Israel's right to exist? Would you consider yourself a Zionist in that narrow definition?
What does that mean, a right to exist?
The existence of the political state of Israel as
but
it
has
existed,
a right. What does that mean?
That you think it should continue in its existence as a state right now. So you do not agree with Iran, for example.
Well, let me just ask, since you asked me the question, it's fair for me to get you to define the term so I can answer it. You've asked two questions. The first was, do you believe Israel has a right to exist? And the second question was, do you believe Israel should continue to go on as a nation state? And those are very different questions. So I often hear the phrase...
Having been created as a political entity in 1948,
does it have a right to exist?
So that's what they're really asking you to endorse, right? When they say, does Israel have the right to exist, they are asking you to endorse its creation as a nation state in 1948. That's what that means. So basically, do you support the creation of an apartheid state where the native population is driven off their land. The ones who don't leave are massacred. I forget exactly the number of people massacred, but obviously just, extraordinarily violent.
750,000 were displaced.
Yeah.
In the
Do you support that? That's what they mean by does Israel have a right to exist?
Is that what you're asking?
I don't want to get hung up on the right.
No.
Should it continue to exist? That's how I define narrowly Zionism.
Because the phrase you used was devised by the Israeli government. Of course, does it have a right to exist? And so my question to you would be, what does that mean?
Why don't you answer my question? It's a very simple question.
I don't know what your question is. Are you asking, does it have a right to exist, or do I want it to exist? Do I seek its destruction?
Fine, answer it that way.
Well, of course I don't seek its destruction.
Okay,
I've already said, as you know, because I said it to you, I don't want Israel to be destroyed or have to use nuclear weapons.
We've established that you are in that narrow terms of Zionist. If that's how
I'm in no sense a Zionist. I don't want any country to be destroyed at all, and I don't want people to die, particularly ones who committed no crime, because I don't believe in killing innocents, period. That's the basis of Western civilization. Eastern civilization is a whole different view. They believe in collective punishment. I don't.
So you're in no sense a Zionist.
I don't even.
Okay, so we'll litigate that later. In this segment, obviously, but I don't want to get too hung up on that now because that's just an illiterate statement, obviously. That Western civilization opposes collective punishment.
Trail of Tears.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
This very moment where we're starving the people of Cuba. This very moment where we're firebombing Iran. Like, what the fuck are you talking? The Crusades? What are you talking? Like, if you're going to talk broadly Western civilization, what are you talking about? So this is the thing with Tucker Carlson, man. I assume he has a top-notch education and he endorses views on history with many of his guests that are absolutely historically illiterate like that. That's Douglas Murray kind of shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, he's a white conservative. So yeah, that's the way he looks at this. And he looks for some reason as, collective punishment as some sort of bastardization of Western civilization, as if it's not consistent with the MO of imperial Western powers, right? It's just, it's amazing. It's amazing. But we'll go on.
You know what that means? Why don't you define the term and then I'll tell you whether I am.
I've just defined it.
What's
you
a
said
Zionist?
that a Zionist in my narrow term, this definition is that the state of Israel, the political state of Israel, has the right to continue existing.
The right? Where does that right come from? What do you mean? These are I'm not being a lawyer?
Yeah, like she acts like he's being difficult. This is the question that they constantly hit you with. Well, are you saying Israel doesn't have a right to exist? I remember this question, going back years and years and years prior to October 7th, when the recent escalation of violence in 2021 happened, that whole question was litigated. And then 2014, it was litigated. And now they act like, well, all right, let's not get hung up on semantics. No, you asked that question for a very specific reason. And you don't ask that question of any other state for a very specific reason, which he gets to.
About it, I just want to know what you're asking me.
to answer the question.
Because I don't know what you're asking me.
Let's go to the
Wait,
third.
No, I think a lot. You don't want to define your question, and I don't know why.
I know why. Because does Israel have a right to exist is code for do you endorse apartheid? But they can't ask it like that because that sounds really mean. So they have to ask it. They have to flip it around and say, well, do the Jewish people not have the right to oppress people between the river and the sea? That's really what they're asking.
Well, yeah, usually they'll do what they did in the mayor's debate as a Jewish state, which is a way of saying as an apartheid state without saying it.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know what you're asking me. I've already said I don't want Israel to be destroyed. I don't want anyone to be killed. And you've said, does Israel have a right to exist? Does it have my question is, what right are you talking about? Does Britain have a right to exist? Does the United States have a right to exist?
There was a world order built up after 1945 which suggested that aggression should not be condoned into countries, that countries with borders have the right to intervene.
I totally agree with that.
Okay.
Which is why the first thing that Israel did within 2 weeks of this war starting, which is supposedly existential for them, was take southern Lebanon, take someone else's country, as they have done repeatedly, And no one even mentions that. And so I guess I would be opposed to that because I guess I think Lebanon has a right to exist. I thought Gaza had a right to exist. But I noticed that as soon as we start apportioning rights, only one country gets them.
No, I did not say that. You're absolutely...
Yes, you did say that. Yes, you did say that because what he says there is absolutely right. After October 7th, they hit Lebanon. Well, what about Lebanon's right to exist? What, they don't have a right to exist? Of course, the reason you ask, does Israel have the right to exist, is because you're asking somebody to, A, endorse apartheid, but B, now the second part of this comes to a head, makes itself noticed. What you're saying is, do you believe Israel has the right to conduct itself however it wants? That's the second part.
Well, that's it.
Right?
Well, that's it.
Do
If
they
it
have
has
a right to form as an apartheid state and act with total impunity forever?
Right.
That's the second
Right.
piece of it. And he
Because if
revealed
they-
both of those things in 3 minutes. He got her to admit both of those things, essentially.
Yeah, if it has a right to exist, then no matter what, if you're saying that right is fundamental and inalienable,
Right.
then no matter what they do, you cannot turn the discussion to the dismantling of the state.
And that's it. That's it. That's exactly what is revealed there. Does Israel have the right to exist means, well, does Israel have the right to just bomb Lebanon if they want?
Repeatedly. And no one even mentions that. And so I guess I would be opposed to that because I guess I think Lebanon has a right to exist. I thought Gaza had a right to exist. But I noticed that as soon as we start apportioning rights, only one country gets them.
No, I did not say that. You're absolutely
course
putting
you did.
words
So
into
because
my
I
mouth.
believe,
No.
here's what I do believe, since
Of course
you
you
asked.
did.
I believe in universally applicable standards. And if they're not universally applicable, they're not standards, they're preferences. That's why I believe in human rights, not ethnic rights. I don't think Jews have more rights or less rights than anyone else. I don't think Christians have more rights or less rights, blacks, Filipinos. I believe in human rights that derive from the creation of people by God.
Yeah, that is very, very well said. Historically illiterate interpretations about Western civilization notwithstanding. That's exactly right. Of course, the answer to that question is that no state has the right to exist. States do not have the right to exist. People have the right to exist. States have responsibilities to conduct themselves according to universally applied standards. And when they act in violation of those standards, they forfeit their quote unquote right to exist. I have the right to exist. If I violate someone else's right to exist, I forfeit my own right to exist, right? That's basic justice, right? So the Mises Institute put out a little think piece about this in November of 2024. No state has a right to exist. That includes the state of Israel. States do not have rights. States, after all, are just organizations with a monopoly on the means of coercion within a certain territory. They're not natural and certainly do not enjoy any natural rights. At their best, states can be used to protect the rights of people who live within their borders. States are usually not at their best, however. Usually, state powers are employed to violate the rights of people unfortunate enough to live under the power of state operatives. These victims of the state include both the state's residents as well as innocent victims living in other weaker states. Exactly. Exactly. States exist to have a monopoly on force. So how can you grant inalienable rights to an entity that literally exists to suppress people's rights and to regulate human rights? That's not to say states should not exist. It's that you cannot grant any one state a right to exist, because to do so is to give it permission to act in violation of the rights of other people or peoples as organized into states of their own. So the whole question is just a complete nonsense question, which is why that question is never asked of any other state. Like, that's why it's not part of any kind of like political discourse beyond this one country who we insist has a right to exist. And we do that to justify its apartheid founding, and we do that to justify its perpetual crimes against its neighbors. I thought he exposed that within 3 minutes. He made that plainly obvious. And I've never seen that question attacked as well by anybody. So I thought that was fascinating. As someone who always, even before I knew anything about this, I always sniff. You know how like when you're arguing with somebody and you just kind of smell bullshit, right? They say something and you're like, well, that's not right. What are you asking me? I always felt that way. Whenever this right to exist question come up, I'm like, this strikes me as very sneaky and sleazy. I don't really know why because I'm not versed enough to know why.
Right.
But it always struck me as very odd.
Well,
and this kind of puts a finger on it.
Well, and states as we know them, as we think of them, are a recent invention.
Right.
This is not how people have been governed for most of human history. We've had nations, but the modern nation state is a modern invention. The reason we start getting public education is they need everyone speaking the same language because you need them to go work in the factory. Everyone
Right.
can't be speaking a different dialect.
Right.
Like what we think of as English, that would not have been English to most people. You would have spoken a dialect here or a dialect here, and that lives on in Welsh and certain other dialects that have survived. Most of them got wiped out because you had to make everybody uniform.
Right. Right.
The state as we know it today, that's it's a blip in human history. Like it exists now, probably won't exist in 100 years. It'll have been supplanted by a different form of organization. So the whole premise is based in a system that was set up. The state was set up to benefit the people who control the state. And part of maintaining a system like that is convincing people that states are inherently good and that somehow they're a fixed thing that you cannot even imagine not having, right? It's not even, it's like thinking of the end of capitalism, right? It's hard to imagine the end of capitalism. It's hard to imagine the end of states, and that's
Right.
by design. They don't want you to imagine that. This whole rules-based order of the states, as Carney came out in a moment of rare honesty and said, that whole idea of the states and the rules-based order, it was always designed just to benefit the people who controlled that order.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, of course, it's insane to say that a state has a right to exist. It's just an insane statement.
Right.
Makes
It's an
no sense.
arbitrary construct.
Yeah.
It's not water. It's not elemental. It's not a force of nature.
Right. Exactly. All right. I'll take some of these, and then I'll let you take some, and I'll copy the rest over. There's no support for Israel because of the destruction and genocide in Gaza. But if Bibi wanted his Iran war, he had to destroy Gaza. Imagine Hamas coordinating ground missile attacks with Iran. Well, look, it's obvious, and we did a segment on this when the 12-day war happened. Right back when the war when the first exchange happened back in June, I did that whole half-hour-long segment about Israel colluding with the Trump campaign to get him in, rip the Iran deal up, and of course, I think October 7th, much in the sense that 9/11 was a false flag. Not to say it didn't happen as a false flag, but an inside job, shall we say? An inside job to justify the Iraq War. I think you could pretty much say October 7th is the 9/11 of the Iran war. What 9/11 was to Iraq, October 7th is to this. I think that's fairly obvious at this point. Funny how Stephen A. Smith went on his stupid bubble rants about anti-Semitism and how dare Americans say we got into this war on behalf of Israel. Then shows his X poll that 75% blame Israel. Is that right? Wow, I didn't see that.
I didn't see that either.
Though it's tough admitting my country needs its ass kicked. Well, they by your country you mean Israel. They're certainly getting their ass kicked. Yeah, Russell, the footage at the start of this segment is from the 12-day war. Which footage? The
the CNN.
The CNN.
Whoops.
You can report war crimes to the Metropolitan Police War Crimes Unit either online or at your local police station. War crimes to the Metropolitan. Oh, that must be a UK thing, right? Yeah, UK. Yeah, Metropolitan Police. That's the UK. All right. Well, yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, really, they should flash mob that shit to every precinct in the UK.
Yeah. Thanks to your reporting, I'm taking aid to Cuba. Flight on Wednesday. Just me with suitcases.
Holy
Stories
shit.
on my Instagram. Same handle as my name here. Well, that's great.
Oh, wow.
Great. Great for you,
Wow,
man.
that's awesome, man.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And be safe. Don't make us feel guilty. You know, get you into any trouble over there.
It's going to be like the Fisher King.
Say hello to Hassan Piker over there. Trump's brain losing the battle to RFK's Felchworks. Thank you. There we go. Resistance is existence, says Giljoy. Peace and justice in Palestine and West Asia. EO shush, I can only speak for myself, but the anti-Semitism on DD is turning me into a Zionist. Their low IQ energy is too much for anyone intelligent to handle.
I saw that. They didn't even make the effort to change the words around. Like they just literally copy. You didn't see that, Keaton?
No, what, in the chat?
You had like 3 different influencers tweet like exactly that phrase.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't see that.
I think Ian Miles Chong was one of them.
Interesting. You guys are the definition of true mensch. Thanks for telling the truth. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Will said Tucker, but I don't believe anyone who could be running for president in the future because they always say what we want to hear, and then they fuck us. It's going to be very, very interesting. Very interesting to see what happens on that score. North America celebrate. I don't think Tucker's going to do it. I don't think Tucker will run. North America.
He's too smart to get into that kind of shit.
He's too smart. You know, he's like one of these. I mean, Jesse Ventura was one of these guys who always used to say he was going to run and never did because deep down he didn't want it. And I sense Tucker is the same way. North America celebrating 250 years of ethnically cleansing native nations. Yeah, exactly. Hey, maybe that's what Tucker meant by Western civilization. Maybe Native Americans, you know.
Oh, yeah. Well, in that case.
In that case, he's right. They're the real Westerners, you know. We're Eastern compared to them. Maybe that's what he meant. Maybe by Eastern, he meant, you know, Spaniards.
Sure, they're more Western than we
they're
are.
They're more Western than we are. Neither of you are wrong in this situation. The unfortunate truth is that no matter what happens, massive death and devastation will occur, as was always planned to usher in the new world. I mean, I don't think we were literally, like, arguing. Just like, you know, it's a situation. It's a question of how you define, you know, victory, right? Like, like if victory for Iran means they wipe out all the Gulf states and, you know, take out their water desalination and you know, millions die of dehydration. Like I don't think any like humane person is rooting for that outcome. I think you're rooting for an outcome where it stops, at which point, yes, they will declare victory, and most people will understand that as Iran having fought off the West. Of course, we will declare victory here as well. So that's what I mean.
But but nobody's going to believe us.
Nobody's going to believe that. But like,
I mean, objectively, Iran would win.
Americans will believe. Yeah, but I mean, again, it's just, you know, that point it becomes a propaganda war, right?
Which we would lose.
We would probably lose that war. But like, who cares? Like, who gives a shit? Like, the bottom line is, like,
well, it's important because at that point, like, I really feel Iran is Gandalf right now. You shall not pass. Right? That's Iran right now, man. Like, they're holding the line for the rest of the world. They are, man, because as soon as the military resources aren't tied up there, God, you got Cuba, you got Greenland on the back burner. Who knows what these psychos will do?
Well, I mean, you want to talk about that, you got to talk about Russia, Ukraine, right? You got to talk about that. I mean, talk about, you know, just a drain. I mean, look at all the weapons we've already committed there,
right?
You know, for years and years and years going into this, right? You know, it's all connected in that way. You know, China's looking at that to see when they move on Taiwan. Now you have Iran in the mix, right? I think Donald Trump this is why I say, like, I don't think this would have happened under another president, because I think you needed someone as clearly just under the thumb of Israel that they can get dragged into this, even though there is no strategic benefit. There's no exit strategy. There's no path to any real kind of victory. It's just a suicide mission. It's a suicide mission because, as Tucker said, all Iran has to do is survive. to win because the clock is on their side. It's very easy. It's much easier to win a game when the clock is on your side. And the clock is on their side because if they choke off the Strait of Hormuz for long enough, we can't fight. We can't.
Right.
Like the world will plunge into a global depression, you know? So yeah.
There's only one thing that has stopped China from moving on Taiwan, and the audio leaked actually online. Wait till Russell Dabor come. He come in 2 weeks. Wait. Then we could keep him here forever.
A podcast, America podcast. I think he hot shit. I think he come and go as he please, wherever he want. Yeah.
He caught, as soon as plane land, we attack.
Yeah. He think we forget about his jokes. Yeah.
He get his mind right, but we get it righter.
We get it right. Exactly. For what is this? Am American and for rooting 6. I don't know what that. Oh, rooting for Iran. Got it. Okay. All right. So, would you code that? Are you on YouTube or are you on Rumble? See, I don't know who's on YouTube or Rumble now. I guess these are the YouTube rants. $5. I'm kind of rooting for the other side, but also for U.S. sailors getting plenty of fiber in their diet and drying their clothes for high heat. Keaton, I am also disappointed that we aren't getting a full Afro Man segment on the channel. What about giving us a full Afro Man segment on your music channel? That's an idea.
Yeah,
I thought about
idea.
that.
That's an idea.
I thought about that since it doesn't really fit the news cycle anymore. Hopefully he'll be back in the news. Hey, maybe when Russell is in China, I'm going to bring a lot of guests on the show. Maybe I'll try and bring Afro Man on the show. That would be epic.
That would be awesome.
That'd be epic. I might try to make that happen. That would be pretty incredible to have Afro Man on. Who doesn't love Afro Man? Fair play, Tucker. Tusker says, as much as I can appreciate Tucker and his anti-war positions, but every fucking time he starts going on about Western civilization as an analysis, it makes me want to bang my head on the ground. Well, yeah, he can't help himself but like throw in some of that shit. Like, what was he talking about when he did that clapback against Laura Loomer? It was like pretty epic and great. But then he throws in that, like, I oppose the anti-white bias in the government. Which government you did? This government? The anti-white bias in this government? Like he
it's
always
it's like Soul Train up in that White House.
Yeah, exactly. Like he always throws in something. What music channel, says Brandon Holiday? So my music channel is the ShufflePod, youtube.com/ShufflePod. It's called The Shuffle. So go and subscribe, please. It's funny. I put up a couple shorts on the channel the last couple days. And one of the comments was like, "Hey, aren't you on the Do Dissonance show?" I'm like, yeah.
Well, so that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
you got
people
people coming in through other avenues.
Exactly.
I mean, I get that on the Travel Channel. I've had a couple people comment, "Yeah, good idea. Mixing in politics with travel," who clearly did not come from
who clearly didn't come from there.
They saw like Da Nang and then got a rant about the war.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Does Iran have a right to exist? Does Gaza? Again, if you ask that question of Israel, you have to ask that question of every state, right? Of course. And that's why they never ask that of any other state. Goba 44, thanks to the 4.99, says, it's sad that there's no one from the proverbial left to confront this old witch. What old witch? Oh, the what's her name there? Well, no, look, this is what we've said. Like the anti-Israel right is going to be more of a threat than the anti-Israel left in the meantime because the right is in power. And like the fact that they're so desperate to like get him under control because they see that Zionism is slipping away from them. And I think that made itself very evident in the case of Charlie Kirk. If billionaires have the right to exist, the rest of us don't, obviously, because they suck up everything we need to exist. Yeah, good point, Nina. Do BLTs have a right to exist, Keaton? Screw hoagies and subs. I'm going to ask about
Well,
BLT.
when I came back from India, the first thing I got was a freaking big BLT on a hoagie. So I kind of combined both. So if you saw my first video when I left for Thailand, I got one last bacon, egg, and cheese from the guy at the street vendor. That's what I'm going to do when I get back up. Hopefully that guy's working. That would be perfect if I could get the same guy to make me a BLT. Although I got to say, it's not like India. Like, you can get things like that here. Like India, you really couldn't. Like, you really could not find bacon. Like, that does not exist. I mean, not anywhere that I saw, man. Like, not even the Western place. Too much Muslim sensitivities. Like, they just don't have it. It's like you can't find beef and you can't find pork, more or less.
Right. Sunrise, UK Chosenites losing their mind over an exhibition drawings against genocide in Margate, Kent. Interesting. Wow. Mark Dansky, here's the response. Does Germany have the right to exist, or does Nazi Germany have a right to exist? Well, exactly. And that's why, to me, the correct answer is always that no state has the right to exist. They have a responsibility to abide by universally applicable standards. And once they don't, then other countries have a right to defend themselves against the incursions of that out-of-control entity. And yeah, Nazi Germany is a perfect example. Yeah, it's fine that Germany exists until they start invading their neighbors, right? Then they have to be dealt with. Keaton, sorry for your loss. Thank you, Queensboro Figs. Did you hear that Bernie Sanders is retiring and going back to his old job being voice of Aardvark on the Pink Panther show? Thank you for that. Appreciate that very much. All right, everybody. Well, hey, that's our show. We thank you very much for being here. We are going to take a 5-minute break and head to the post-show Q&A. We do have Sweet Home Alabama, done Vietnamese style. Oops. Oh, wow. Look at that. Saved by the Bell is Russell Dopular. How you like that? All right. Well, while he's setting things up, we have a cover of Sweet Home Alabama from Vietnam there. If Russ makes it back on for the Q&A, then we'll see you in 5 minutes. If he doesn't, then I'll see you in 5 minutes. I'll stick around. Either way, we thank you all very much for being here tonight. Please smash that like button on the way out. Smash that subscribe button on the way out. Thanks to the YouTubers, to the Rumblers, to the mods for keeping the peace in the chat. Thanks to Jake in the booth. If you want to stick around for the Q&A and call in, patrons, paid Substackers, and paid Locals members have call-in access. Everyone else is welcome to join the chat and watch along. We will be back in 5 minutes for the Q&A. If you're not sticking around for that, we'll see you Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thanks very much, everybody, for being here tonight. Be safe and be well. Remember, Randy Walters is a son of a bitch.
Please clap.